Good morning, everyone. I guess you might be wondering why I'm wearing this hat. Well, I'll tell you what. Nate Eaton just tweeted out, inside the courtroom for another day of Daybell trial, a woman with a hat pulled over her face was escorted into the courthouse by a Rexburg police officer. It appears to be Melanie Gibb, y'all. Melanie Gibb is coming into the courthouse, y'all. You know she's had to travel to be here. You know she is out there to testify today. Can y'all believe it? Again, Melanie Gibb is in the house, y'all. Good morning. This is day 4 of the Lori Daybell trial. We'll recap things here shortly, but I'm trying to get caught up here. We got some comments, some questions that were asked to Justin Lum this morning from the docket, Chasing Papers, Big E. He says, did Lori fall asleep at any time you're aware of? And Justin says, didn't see any sleep, saw her lean back in her chair from my angle. And then another person asked, did you get a seat today? And he said, yes, I did. And finally, y'all, the last tweet until we get started. Day 4 of testimony for Lori Vallow trial. Sources tells me that a key witness, Melanie Gibb, is in the building. Can y'all believe it? Wonder what, you think it'll be a carbon copy of what we saw at Chad's preliminary hearing? Good morning, Ron Hisley. Good morning, Sugar Mama. Julie Wilburn, Erna Anspich, Guitarra, Angel Donmeyer, Anna Brown, daughter of Scotland. Good morning. Y'all, Melanie Gibbs in the house. All right, y'all. Lori is wearing a light gray jacket and black rimmed glasses. Her attorneys are here and all of the prosecutors are at their table. Justin Lum says, he reemphasizes this again. For those that are joining new here, I'm going between Justin Lum and Nate Eaton. And we're getting their perspectives. They might mirror one another, but again, you never know what you might pick up. Lori Vallow is wearing a gray blazer, speaking to Jim Archibald. He nods his head. Lindsay Blake is here today and walked over to the defense table. So Lindsay Blake is here today, y'all. But again, we got the news yesterday that a loved one in her family has passed away. We don't know if this is going to be a full day today, but we do know that Monday there will not be any trial activity going on, i.e., I'm assuming a funeral of one of Lindsay Blake's family members. So she is there today. Melanie Gibb is there. And Justin Lum wants to bring it out to everyone that the last time Lori and Melanie have seen each other was in 2019. We all are very aware that she testified along with David Warwick there at Chad's preliminary hearing. It scratched the surface of all the things that the state was trying to tread on. Remember, a preliminary hearing, you only need so much. You don't have to show your whole hand in order to get the case bound over for trial. So we're going to get more in depth with Miss Melanie Gibb. And why not? These jurors are going to have to damn hear her know all of this information, y'all. She's been there from the get-go, and it's not going to get past these jurors. Now, don't get me wrong. I want to see the state's case laid out and conviction of Lori Daybell. I want to see that. But I do not like Melanie Gibb. In fact, if I saw Melanie Gibb today, her and I would have serious issues. Lori is looking down at the desk in front of her, most likely notes, our view is from behind her 12 to 15 feet away, says Justin Lum. So we know that yesterday we had some law enforcement. I'm going to recap this. I'm going to get it retweeted as quickly as it comes through, y'all, but I'm going to recap. We know yesterday started off with finishing up of cross-examination of Ray Hermosillo, the lead detective from Fremont County. It went from there to Fremont County Deputy Sheriff Joe Powell, who was examined by Tanya Rollins. After that, you had Spencer Ramel, who was examined. Spencer Ramel, who examined Lieutenant Jarrett Wilmore with Madison County, who oversees the jail's telemate system. Let's keep in mind what we learned yesterday. The bottom line is that one call, Lori calling from jail to Chad on June 9th of 2019. She's on the damn phone. She's, what can I do for you? Can I pray for you? I love you so much. All that crazy stuff. And Chad's sitting there like Homer Simpson, okay? These two were busted. Anyway, from there, we also heard about Cafe Rio. Cafe Rio and Hobby Lobby. These two self-proclaimed king and queen of the 144,000, the leaders of the Church of the Firstborn, had to go into Hobby Lobby for arts and crafts, maybe some decor ideas for the end of the world. Yes, I'm being facetious, but you know it, and I know it. These two are absolutely diabolically evil. Now you got the exhibits that were entered into evidence yesterday, y'all. You got some we hadn't heard from yet. I watched an interview with Nate Eaton and Justin Lum, and I posted their picture on the community wall. They talked about that these exhibits of Summer Shiflett with a video call with Lori while she's in jail, along with Kobe Ryan, who had a video call with his mother. Nate is just guessing, but he thinks that once Kobe Ryan or Summer Shiflett takes the stand, that they'll be the ones to say, yes, that was the call, and then we'll get to hear it. Let's all hope this happens. So anyway, because yesterday was cut short, we are hoping that today we'll get more testimony. I know that Justin Lum had said that they were going to gauge the timing yesterday after the announcement to see how long yesterday would go. He wasn't sure they'd go a full day today. But you got to keep in mind, y'all, the state has a case they put together, and they probably have some kind of order that they're doing all this in, and things are a little discombobulated right now. It just seems like, yes, they're moving. They got the testimony of these law enforcement officials yesterday. Y'all know what happened the day before and the first day of trial. The bottom line is in my view, I hope that this break that's happening on Monday doesn't cause any issues with Lori saying she wants her speedy trial. Okay. Judge Boyce has entered the courtroom. He reminds everyone in attendance to follow the courtroom conduct order. Larry and Kay Woodcock, along with several family members, are here. Annie Cushing and her daughter are also here. Several members of the public are watching in the courtroom and in the overflow room in Ada County. Justin Lum says another source confirms to me that Melanie Gibb is scheduled to testify today, y'all. Here she goes. Why in the hell? Why is she wearing a hat? She's going to go write a 7-page letter to Daybell. Oh, I've seen the error of my ways. I should have never done this, or I should have never done that. Give me a break. I know how you feel, Christopher Barrett. I was betrayed too. The woman was there all along. I will never, ever accept that she was innocent in any of this. So she is going to testify. And wonder what this testimony is going to elaborate on, because we know she testified at Chad's preliminary hearing, and she absolutely got tripped up. several times by John Pryor. Now, John Pryor, he's been sitting in the courtroom every day, seeing the state's hand on this, looking at how he's going to come at this when Chad Daybell eventually gets tried, whether it be the end of this year or the beginning of next year. The bottom line is we've seen it, y'all. We've seen her damn interviews with police. They were doing all this stuff, but, I didn't believe any of this. I didn't. But then again, they bring out in her interviews how she had to admit, y'all, listen to this. She had to admit that she believed not only that she was one of those special 144,000, but she also thought she was the daughter of Lori in a different life. Phoebe, that was her name. And I'm going to tell you what, I told y'all this. I've told y'all this for 2 years. I don't have much worry about it now because I've seen how Thomas is doing things. He ain't getting, he isn't getting aggressive. He's not getting anything. I don't know if he's going to go after Melanie Gibb, but I'll tell you what, that woman deserves to be on the hot seat for her involvement in all this. And I want to be clear, because these are my opinions and my opinions alone. That damn woman, she knew Tylee was dead. She knew JJ was dead. There ain't no way anyone's ever going to convince me that she didn't know what was going on. It's when the shit hit the fan and she couldn't figure out a way out of it that she went over to David Warwick's, and they spent all night long trying to figure out a way to get themselves out of trouble. It's just as simple as that. So she's going on the stand today, y'all, and we're going to hear her testimony. And I know she's going to present herself as this meek person. And she, in her interview with the police, nobody tells it like me, old Melanie Gibb. Y'all want me to help you? Nobody tells it like I do. Let's see how highfalutin and high and mighty she is sitting on that stand today. Good morning, Renee. Good morning, sisters too. Gina Marie, Missy Cat, Patricia Robbins, Donna Donald, Rusted Knight, Hope Grace. Hope Grace says, don't forget her spilling the tea to a church associate that was recorded. Oh, yeah. VC says, in my humble opinion, Lori will be found guilty and Chad Daybell will plead out. Bama Cat, they don't say anything about Kobe being in the courtroom. And yesterday evening's interview with Justin Lum and Nate Eaton, they both did an interview together. You can find it online. I'll post it on the community wall. The bottom line is they say they haven't seen Kobe. So I don't know if he's been in there or not or what. Old Lady Snoop says, please do this every day. I'm so grateful I found you, and now we're all hooked up on your sparkling personality. I need your play-by-play. It soothes the soul. Thank you. Old Lady Snoop, y'all are the ones that's got the sparkling personalities. I opened this channel 2 years ago for the Rays on here. Ray meaning research, analysis, and you. This isn't a show. This channel ain't for everybody, but everyone is welcome. And I'm glad y'all are here. Reticent Robin says, Gibb has been called to the stand. Okay, y'all, let me stop blabbing my mouth. Here we go. Lindsay Blake calls on Melanie Gibb to the stand. Vallow stares at Gibb, taking her oath inside the courtroom. Gibb is wearing a black top and white skirt with black boots. She wears her glasses and is now seated. Lori turns towards her from her seat. She is fully focused on Gibb. I bet Lori's sitting there going, how can you do it to me? How can you do it to me, Phoebe? Gibb confirms to Judge Boyce that she has not observed any of this trial. Jurors have been brought into the room. Fremont County Prosecuting Attorney Lindsay Blake will now question Melanie Gibb. Gibb is wearing a black top, white skirt, glasses, and is sworn in. This is the first time Lori and Melanie have seen each other since 2019. And again, if you hear me repeating stuff or it's somewhat of the same information, understand this. When in your life have you ever taken part in a blow-by-blow of two of some of the best journalists in the crime genre, getting their perspective, knowing that we have no cameras in the courtroom, we're here, we're together, we're going to get justice through understanding. Melanie says she met Lori at a church event in 2018. She says she met Chad a year or two before she met Lori. She says when she met Chad, it was a casual introduction to each other. They periodically saw each other, but were not close friends. Well, that's a new one. She periodically saw Chad. They weren't close friends. Blake asked, how do you know Lori Vallow? Melanie Gibbs says, I met her at church event in September of 2018. Blake asked about how Gibb knows Chad Daybell and how she introduced him to Lori Vallow. Blake says, have you met Tylee Ryan? And Melanie Gibbs says, yes, at Lori's house. Let's just see how much different this woman testifies as it relates to her police interviews, Chad's preliminary hearing. Let's see what she's added or taken away. I'm telling you all this. These are my views, my opinions, allegedly. I believe the state made a deal with the devil when they got Melanie Gibb, David Warwick, Melanie Pulowski, Zulema to be their witnesses. I believe that's what they did. And I believe all four of them are lying by omission. I believe they all know what happened. Melanie says she and Lori kept in touch after they met. Melanie met Tylee within a week of meeting Lori. Melanie says Tylee seemed upset and frustrated with Lori most of the time. There was tension in the relationship, Melanie says. Melanie says she met JJ within a week or two of meeting Lori. Blake is confirming that Gibb knows Tylee and JJ. She asked Gibb about interactions between Lori and her kids. Melanie Gibbs says Lori was very affectionate to JJ. Sometimes as time went on, he seemed a little frustrated and Lori seemed distracted a lot. Well, what time are we talking about, Melanie Gibb? When Lori and Alex took out his father and didn't give him his damn medicine? Give me a break. As time went on, Gibbs says Lori Vallow became busy with other things, more distracted. Well, I'm sure she was busy wanting to do it to it with Mr. Chin there, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Horndog. Melanie says Lori was affectionate with JJ and she would sing him songs at bedtime, but as time went on, Lori wasn't as focused on JJ and Lori was distracted a lot. And I'm sure she traded in those songs to sweet little JJ so she could make those dang videos of her dancing for Chad. Those, this makes me so angry. And think about it like this. Melanie Gibb is saying these things. How would she know? These are intimate details. She was right there when Lori's singing songs to JJ. She was in the thick of it. She was in the middle of it. Melanie says she saw Lori daily or several times a week during the beginning of their friendship. Things changed in January of 2019 when Lori started moving. Melanie lived within 20 to 25 minutes of each other. They would get together, speak on the phone, and text message. How often did Melanie and Lori hang out? Sometimes daily, she says. This activity went on from January of 2019 until Lori moved to Idaho in fall of 2019. Again, y'all, Melanie Gibb. Melanie Gibb was right there the whole time. She wanted a front row seat. She wanted to be important. She wanted people to take her serious. Well, she's on the stand now in a triple murder trial, and she definitely needs to be in a prison cell. Melanie says in January of 2019, Lori decided to leave Arizona and stay with Alex. Then she went to Hawaii, then to Texas, and then back to Arizona by July of 2019 when Charles was killed. And I will correct that, when Charles was murdered. I know, I've said this to y'all yesterday. They cannot use that word murder. The judge is not allowing them to bring in the specificity of the fact that she has been charged with conspiracy to commit murder on her husband, Charles Vallow. Gibb is describing Vallow's movement from Arizona to Hawaii, back to Arizona, Texas, and then to Arizona. This happened from January to July. Gibb says Vallow moved several times. She stayed in contact with her, inconsistently, yet often. Yeah, Melanie Gibb, she wants to be the star witness for the state. I'm going to just tell y'all this right now. And when I speak, I promise y'all, I've got this is blow by blow. I'm going to do it as quickly as possible. But I've been working on this shit for 2 years, and I've got some things I want to say. The bottom line is this woman absolutely deserves to be in a jail cell. That's what I say. Blake asked about a trip Melanie Gibb and Lori Vallow took to Utah. The group consisted of about 5 to 6 women. Melanie Gibb can't recall their names, don't y'all know? She can't recall the people she was riding in a vehicle with? Give me a break. The destination was St. George, Utah for a conference. And it's my understanding that Zulema was there. Why don't she bring that up? 5 to 6 women. Are these all the 5 or 6 women that want to put their arm to the square and try to do these castings to kill Charles Vallow, Tylee, and Tammy? Melanie says she and Lori went on a trip with 5 to 6 other ladies for a conference in Utah. Melanie observed a meeting between Chad and Lori. Chad and Lori had never met before. The conference was Friday, Saturday, and on Sunday, and most people went home. But Chad stayed Friday and Saturday night. Lori and Melanie were in the area Friday through Sunday. Melanie says Chad and Lori were very friendly to each other. They also always try to call in about their beliefs they had, and there was definitely an attraction at the beginning. Lori was very interested in Chad. Melanie Gibb says, like someone who would meet someone they're attracted to. She seemed flattered with him and was flirty. Yeah, she's flirty, all right. She's flirty. She's like a 5-cent hooker on a corner. This sets the scene for the Preparing a People conference in October of 2018 when Chad and Lori met on a weekend. Blake asked Chad whether Chad was there for the entirety. She says Friday and Saturday, same as Lori and Melanie. Melanie observed the two and says they were very friendly, interactive, and talked about their ideas and their beliefs. Melanie says Lori had read a few of Chad's books before they met. She's, yeah, that's what they said on that. She read a few of them, y'all. She was absolutely passionate. I'm going to use that word instead of the other one. There was an attraction from the beginning, says Melanie Gibb. Have you ever read any of Chad's books? Blake asks. Melanie Gibb says, I have. And Blake says, and Lori? And Melanie Gibb says she had read some. Blake asks if Gibb recalls anything about the two of them. Gibb says Chad told Lori he believed they'd been married in multiple past lives. John Thomas objects to that statement, and the judge overrules. Blake says this is a statement of an alleged co-conspirator, and you damn Skippy. And Thomas needs to sit his ass down and let this go on and get it over with. You'll have your turn, Thomas, the dang Jiffy Burger boy. Y'all, this is just what we know a lot of this information. I'm waiting to see some break in that. The only thing I've seen so far is she said there was 5 or 6 women and she couldn't recall the names. Well, she sure didn't have a problem saying things in Chad's preliminary hearing. So something's up on that. Don't know what it is, but I'm looking for deviations because that woman is a deviant. Melanie is asked if she ever spoke with Chad about the first time she met Lori. She says most likely, but she doesn't remember. Melanie spoke with Lori after Lori meeting Chad. Of course she's not going to say what her and Chin talked about. Melanie Gibb doesn't want to tell the world that she's sitting there going, oh, Chad, oh, you're so right. I believe the same things as you do, Chatty. She shared with me, says Melanie Gibb, that he told her that they had been married in another time period. She did believe that. She had already had the belief system that there were multiple lives, as they would call it. She already believed that before she had physically met him. And one has to ask this Melanie Gibb, who is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, was she teaching this in their regular church classes? Was this something that was sanctioned by the church? Melanie says Lori told her that Lori had been married to the prophet Moroni from the Book of Mormon. And some of y'all know about this who have been following this. We've all had to kind of educate ourselves about this. There are different figures in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Book of Mormon, which is different than the Holy Bible, y'all. And if you'll recall at Melanie Gibbs' interview with Detective Ron Ball, he said, don't you find that interesting, you being a member of that church, and here you are hearing this? After the conference, Lori kept in touch with Chad on the phone, according to Melanie. Chad was married to Tammy at the time, and Lori was married to Charles. Both spouses were still alive. And Melanie Gibb could have done so much. I mean, maybe not at this time. She didn't realize that things were going to be getting nefarious, even though the crazy ass stuff she was listening to, she should have at least backed away from that. But there were times, especially after Charles's death, when Lori's talking about, I'm still going to get this $6,000 and talking about life insurance. And then Charles just gets shot and killed by Lori's freaked out brother Alex. Blake confirms with Gibb that Lori was married at the time to Charles Vallow and that Chad was married to Tammy Daybell. Both spouses still alive at the time. Blake on quote-unquote multiple probations. When did you first learn this term, says Blake to Gibb. And Gibb says, when I first started hanging out with Lori, it was introduced to me. Now, isn't that special, y'all? But Gibb says Chad knew about this idea a lot more than Lori. I see Lori turn to John Thomas and shake her head. She's taking notes. Oh, what's she shaking her head about? Is Melanie Gibb lying about that damn hussy? Is Lori shaking her head about it? Oh, Lori didn't have a problem putting her head down over the desecrated remains of her children being shown to all these people in the courtroom. And now she's going to sit there and shake her head? Remember, y'all, Lori told Melanie Gibb on that secret recording, you're going to have to be held responsible for the knowledge you know. And you know it, and I know it. Lori's told Thomas and Archie everything there is to know about Melanie Gibb. Melanie says she learned of the term multiple probations when she first started interacting with Lori. Lori and Chad introduced these teachings to Melanie, and Chad often spoke about it. Lori told Melanie that she and Chad often spoke about multiple probations. Melanie says the definition of multiple probations changed the longer they knew each other, but the basic belief was you could live multiple times on the earth and it would be different for everyone. 2 weekends after the meeting, Chad came to Arizona for another event. Melanie and Lori went to this conference, and Lori held a meeting at her house before the conference. Melanie does not remember if Chad was there. Wait a minute. I don't know if they're going to get into this in-home meeting crap where Melanie Gibb, they didn't talk about it, where Lori was there at Melanie Gibb's house saying, I was the warrior beyond the millennia. And my ex-husband Joe Ryan was molesting Dolly and all this. And I just told the bishop, if you don't give me a temple recommend, I'm going to murder somebody. Why ain't they talking about that, y'all? Huh? Why ain't they talking about that? And this is on the record, y'all. This is stuff that all of us know is on the record. We've done our homework. Also, just to let some of you know that may be new to this, you can go on YouTube and you can put in on the search Melanie Gibb's in-home meeting where you hear Lori on the recording. Also, you can get recordings of Melanie Gibb talking to a friend about how crazy all this was when she was in the middle of it. Melanie Gibb on the alleged beliefs of Lori and Chad, saying on this earth you can come back multiple times, but it's different for everybody. Another event in November of 2018 happened in Mesa, Arizona, for another conference. Lori Vallow hosts a gathering in light of this event. And y'all remember that was the weekend that Charles Vallow was out busting his ass, He give Lori this big, beautiful home with a pool and everything else, but she couldn't handle that. She couldn't handle being a good wife to Charles Vallow. She was too busy wanting to spread her damn legs. After the conference, Gibbs says Chad stayed at Lori's house overnight while Charles Vallow was out of town. And isn't that always how it is with these damn hussies? They want someone to take care of them, but they don't want to be loyal to them. Blake asked, do you remember Lori talking about her relationship with Chad again? And Melanie Gibbs says, she said they were married about 5 times in different lives. And if that, I mean, I'm telling y'all, if they'd been married 5 different times, he probably banged that thing till it was hanging down on the floor. Sorry. Y'all know how I feel about this. Lori told Melanie that the weekend Chad came to Arizona, they met in the LDS temple together and were sealed together by Moroni and Jesus Christ. And this is another reason why I decided to follow this case. That damn hussy and that chin want to bring Jesus Christ into this? This is ridiculous. That relationship of multiple lives was reunited, says Melanie Gibb. This happened in a waiting room, not a sealing room in the temple, says Melanie Gibb. And how would she know, huh? What? How would she know? Lori was open with Melanie about her feelings for Chad. Lori only told people in her small group about her and Chad. Gibb recalls the weekend in Arizona. Lori told her that she and Chad had met up at the LDS temple, specifically in a waiting room, and that Moroni and possibly Jesus Christ was there. Gibb says Vallow told her that she and Chad were sealed together. Being sealed means you and a partner are together for eternity, according to Gibb, who explains this to Lindsay Blake. Well, isn't that special, y'all? They're sealed for all eternity. I guess they both get to burn in hell together, huh? I wonder how Tammy feels about that. Wonder how that's all going to work itself out. I mean, Lori does believe she's going to see her loved ones again. I guess they might have a few things they want to say to her. A special mission on Earth. Gibbs says Vallow felt she and Chad Daybell were the leaders of the 144,000. And for some of y'all that might not know this, in Holy Scripture, in Revelations, there is talk about the end of the world and that there are going to be 144,000 that's going to set up the new kingdom and all this stuff. The 144,000 is reference to the Bible, people who do missionary work during the second coming of Christ. Blake asked if being the head of the 144,000 is a significant role, and Gibbs says yes. Well, of course it was. They wanted to be the leaders. Lori was the most powerful woman in the world, don't y'all know? They had to go around and act like their shit didn't stink and that they were the king and queen. Gibb names some people. Now here we go, y'all. Gibb named some people who are a part of the main group attached to Lori. You had Zulema Pastanez, Melanie Pulowski, and Alex Cox. Well, why don't she include herself in that, folks? Why can't Melanie Gibb include herself in that? And David Wardick, huh? They were knee-deep in it. It's so disingenuous. Blake clarifies that Lori believed she was the head of the 144,000 after meeting Chad. Yes, Melanie says, and this happened within a few weeks after the two met. Melanie lists the names of those who are in the group and close with Lori, including Alex Cox, Melanie Pulowski. Within weeks of Melanie meeting Lori, Lori begins telling her how Chad and Lori were supposed to lead the 144,000. And Melanie Gibb was right on board with it, don't y'all know? She wanted to be included in that. She told these people in this preparing a people stuff, I just want to be important. I want to do something bigger. And in my letter to Daybell, I said I tried to tell everyone about these experiences I had, but nobody would listen to me. Well, now she gets to be one of the state's witnesses in this trial. Melanie described a light and dark scale that Lori told her about after she met Chad. People who were light had signed contracts with the Savior. Those who were dark signed contracts with Satan before coming to earth. And I guess Chad and Lori got that mixed up because the only contract they could have ever had doing what they did was with Lucifer, Satan himself. This is such blasphemy. It's incredible. You know, what's interesting also about it, y'all, is there's not a single word, not one word in the Holy Scripture, Holy Bible, not the Book of Mormon, but the Holy Bible that says anything about this crazy ass stuff. And trust me when I say I am imperfect. I'm a sinner saved by grace, but I do know my Holy Scripture. Light and dark spirits. Gibb explains that those who sign contracts with the Savior are light and those who sign contracts with Satan are dark. On the light and dark scale, Gibb confirms Lori taught her this and that Lori taught it to others. The teachings evolved over time. And this goes back, y'all, to the murder indictment where the state of Idaho alleges they endorsed and espoused religious beliefs for the purpose of murder. This is important testimony, believe it or not, coming from this Melanie Gibb. They've got to establish this. The jury will get to see this indictment, the charges in it, and they've got to bring this stuff in, y'all. I told y'all this 2 years ago. This was going to bust wide open. Blake asked if Brandon Boudreaux was a part of the inner circle, and Gibb says no. One juror, y'all, stared briefly at Lori with his eyes wide open before looking back to Gibb. This is a lot for this jury to absorb, I'm assuming, says Justin Lum. That's an understatement. Can y'all imagine what these jurors are thinking in this moment? I told y'all they're going to say, this is crazy. But then again, y'all, remember during jury selection and voir dire, some of the questions that were asked were, if someone has different beliefs than you, are you going to be able to stay open-minded and neutral? So this is important to that they clarified this for these juror members. Melanie says Lori taught her about the light and dark scale. Lori would teach other friends and her brother about the scale. Anyone who was dark was working under the contract of Satan. Melanie says someone could switch from light to dark and dark to light. Brandon Boudreaux and Charles Vallow were not present for these meetings and were not told about these teachings. Melanie says Lori would not have considered Charles part of their inner circle. One day in January of 2019, Lori told Melanie that Charles Vallow was taken over by an evil spirit. Chad had told Lori this, and it was the first time Lori had heard this. Charles was now dark. Y'all, I don't know if I like this narrative or not, because Lori had already been listening to all this crazy stuff from Julie Rowe. She'd been listening to all of this. She'd already read Chad Daybell's books. She was already fertile for this evil, crazy stuff. So to frame it that Chad was the one that is responsible for Lori believing this, I disagree. Lori wanted to believe anything and everything just to get away from Charles Vallow so she could have Chad Daybell. That's my view. Blake asked Melanie Gibb if Lori shared anything about someone being possessed. Gibb recalls being at her house in January of 2019 and says Lori came inside from the backyard, telling Gibb that Chad believed Charles was now a dark spirit. Blake asked Melanie Gibb about a dream Lori allegedly had. Gibb says Lori told her she saw Charles and JJ had been in a car accident in this dream and that they would not come home by January 31st of 2019. But Charles did not get into an accident. Gibbs says she talked to Lori about this and asked what happened. And she said Lori told her Satan interfered with the plan. Oh my God. These people are sick. Sick. And you think about this, y'all. If you're thinking, wow, Lori said this and Chad said that, well, hell, Melanie Gibb was right there taking it all in. I don't know what's worse, be honest with you. I mean, all of them were involved. That's just my view. You shared your thoughts that he was going to die, and Lori responded why he didn't die. And Lori responded he didn't because Satan interfered with the plan. Lori is looking at Melanie during this testimony and also taking notes. Lori said she had a dream where Charles was in an accident in Texas and would not be coming home until by January 1st. JJ was with Charles at the time and would have been traveling back with Charles. Charles was never in an accident, and Melanie asked Lori what happened. Lori told Melanie about castings. This involved a prayer to get the evil spirit out of someone and encourage the spirit to come out by the power of God. Melanie participated in the casting in January and February of 2019 after Lori learned Charles was dark. And if this is in fact what they wanted to believe, obviously they didn't take into consideration that God, number one, and this is just my beliefs, wouldn't be involved in anything like this. And number two, if they really thought God was going to do something, why in the hell didn't he do it? Because this was never about God. This was about evil intentions. Charles was the first person Lori ever called dark. Imagine that, y'all. She had to get rid of him so she could be with that chin. She didn't want to divorce him, don't you know? She didn't want to do that. She wanted to collect on that dang $1 million life insurance policy. Blake clarifies that because Charles was dark, he needed to pass away, and Melanie Gibb confirms this. Blake wants to know about casting spirits out, and Gibb recalls Lori having a prayer, reading scriptures, calling the spirit to come out by the Spirit of God. Gibb says it was Lori and her friend Zulema, and I'm telling y'all, these are the witches of all of this. Zulema, Christina Atwood, Serena Sharp, and Melanie Pulowski. These people are nut jobs, y'all. And I don't mean legally insane either. I'm talking about these are the type of people that are walking around society now. I'm an American through and through. I'm a state Tennessee citizen as well. And the bottom line is everyone should be able to believe and worship the way they want. The bottom line is when you go and murder people, that is, to me, not religion. That's called criminality. Convince the spirit to leave the body. Gibb tells Blake how Lori Vallow explained that the original spirit of someone was stuck between this world and the spirit world, either on other side or moved on. And what's interesting about this, and I'm a common sense person, how can a spirit get stuck between this world and the spirit world if God's involved in it? Because the bottom line is there ain't going to be no damn sticking or stuck when you're talking about Almighty God. This is just a crock of shit. The first casting Melanie was involved in was with Lori and a group of women at Zulema Pasterna's house. Alex Cox was not married to Zulema at this time. This casting involved prayers and words that involved convincing the spirit to leave the body. This would be the spirit that took over a particular person's body. Can y'all believe that the jurors are hearing this right now? This is as real as it gets. To give you more insight, Charles Vallow's son is watching from the gallery, hearing about his father being called a dark spirit. He's sitting feet away from his former stepmother. Can y'all believe that? Charles was married before marrying Lori, and he had 2 sons, and the son is only sitting feet away from that damn hussy, his stepmom, who called his father dark. Not to mention, when Charles was murdered, she didn't even have the decency to call his sons. She had to text them, and even then wouldn't even tell them what happened to him. It's pathetic. Names that were used for Charles Vallow's dark spirits was Ned, Garrett, and Hiplos. And when one spirit was cast out, the next dark spirit came in, says Melanie Gibb. Melanie says the first time the group thought they had cast an evil spirit out named Ned out of Charles's body. But Charles was still alive, so the teachings changed. And now a spirit named Garrett entered Charles's body. Lori cast the spirit out of Charles, but then the final spirit, Hiblos, entered Charles's body. Melanie says weeks after the original idea of spirit taking over the body, Lori started to use the term zombie. And when we're talking about Hiplos, which is Hiplos, this is just my opinion, I did a little bit of research on it, this would have came from, and this just is my opinion, Zulema. Zulema had, I believe Zulema was the one that gave this name, because of her cultural background and the things that she was speaking of. Melanie says Lori was present for all of the castings. Chad was present for one casting, according to Melanie. The one Chad attended was right after Charles's death. Melanie recalls possibly participating in a casting for Brandon Boudreaux. Melanie Gibb says she possibly did, y'all. She's not confirming that she's a damn evil woman herself. She just says she recalls possibly that she was in a casting for Brandon Boudreaux. Lori told Melanie that Brandon was dark and he had an evil spirit in him. And just for reference, for some that aren't keeping up with this, Brandon Boudreaux was the husband of Lori's niece, Melanie Pulowski. But they split up after Lori and Melanie P got together and said Brandon Boudreaux was gay. Give me a break. Blake asked if Lori was present for all the castings Melanie Gibb was at. She says yes. As for Chad, she recalls at one casting after Charles was dead. After Charles was shot and killed, castings began for Brandon Boudreaux, says Gibb. She tells Blake that Boudreaux was part of Hitler's regime in a last life. Y'all, I've been to college. I think I'm a little educated, but I can be a little backwards from time to time. But who in the hell? I'm all for everyone worshiping and believing whatever the hell they want, but who would believe this crock of crap? Who actually would believe this stuff? Hitler's regime in the last multiple probation? Well, which is it? Was Brandon in Hitler's army, or was he gay? Which is it? Brandon was part of Hitler's group and was considered a very high dark, Melanie says. She does not recall participating in castings for anyone else. And I'll tell y'all, as I look at you, she says she doesn't recall participating in any castings for anyone else. I guarantee you, she was right there when they're speaking of Tylee and JJ. She was there the weekend JJ. Lori was telling Melanie Gibb that JJ was a zombie. She should have immediately called the children's services or police or something. Lori told Melanie that Charles Brandon, one of Lori's brothers, which was Adam, Lori's dad, Tylee, Kay Woodcock, and JJ were all dark. Random people were also dark. Now, Melanie does say this, but she says she wasn't involved in any of those castings. She just knew that all these people were dark. Again, that was Charles, Brandon, Lori's brother Adam, Lori's dad Barry, Tylee, Kay Woodcock, and JJ Vallow were all dark. She knew that, didn't she? But she didn't participate, did she? Give me a break. Give me a break. Blake asks if a dark spirit entered Tylee, according to Lori. Gibbs says yes. She thinks when Lori was living in Texas in April or May of 2019. So let's put that in perspective, y'all. Charles Vallow was murdered July of 2019. So April or May of 2019, Lori's already starting to talk about Tylee as a zombie, and yet Melanie Gibbs going right on along with it. As for JJ, Gibb believes that in September of 2019, she heard from Lori that the boy was possessed. And this goes back to Melanie Gibbs' testimony at Chad's preliminary hearing, along with her law enforcement interviews that were released. She knew this was what Lori was talking about. All this had already happened with Charles Vallow. She knew what it meant to be a dark spirit. This wasn't about prayers from Almighty God to relieve these people of demons or whatever. At this point, they knew. They knew what this was all about. Blake asked about what Lori told Gibb about Tammy possibly passing away. Gibbs says Lori believed Tammy Daybell would pass away early in life. Gibbs stayed at Lori's house in July of 2019 and on the 9th or 10th. This is before Charles Vallow was killed. And you know, Melanie Gibb had to clear out of there so they could get the plan going, don't y'all know? She already confirms that Lori'd been talking about Charles having life insurance. It's interesting how much Melanie Gibb actually knows about all this. I don't mean to sound like a broken record, y'all, but when it comes down to it, everything that she has information on, she could have stopped this long ago. Melanie says if Tammy Daybell was considered dark, it was right before Tammy died. Lori told Melanie sometime between February and June of 2019 that Tylee was dark. In September of 2019, Lori told Melanie that JJ was possessed. Many jurors are taking notes during Melanie's testimony. And if I was one of those jurors, I would be taking notes. I'd be putting on my note, these people are absolutely crazy. And we're not talking about mental. We're talking about evil, crazy people. That's just my opinion. And just for reference on this, as I wait for a refresh, Chad and Lori was going around telling everyone that, and they've got text messages to prove it, y'all. Everything I speak of, and most of the Rays on here know we've done our homework. The bottom line is they made Tammy out to be some spirit named Viola, and also Julie Rose spirits knocking on Tammy's door, and it's getting close, says Chad in a text. I see the differences. When I see the differences, we know what was going to happen. When Chad Daybell says, when I see the differences, they were going to murder her. And let's just remember, Lindsay Blake in her opening statement said at the hands of someone else, Tammy Daybell was murdered through asphyxiation. The night before Charles died, Lori told Melanie that Alex was spending the night at her house because Charles was going to come and kill her. Let's stop there for a second. If Lori was telling Melanie Gibb that Charles was coming to kill her, why not call the damn police? Give me a break. After Charles died, Lori told Melanie that he'd been argumentative with her. The spirit told Lori to pick up Charles's phone, and he was upset. She took his phone. Lori said they argued. He threatened her, and Tylee came out with a baseball bat to protect herself. Alex went to get his gun to protect him, and then he shot Charles. And again, y'all, this narrative here, no one knows what went on in there. For all we know, Charles came through the door, and they blew his ass away. This I cannot accept at all. I believe, though, that Tylee knew what happened. This is because as soon as all that happened and Lori packed everything up and went to Idaho, it wasn't a weekend to being in Idaho that they're murdering Tylee. She had to die. She knew the situation. Tylee was not going to believe that her mother Lori was some queen of the 144,000. And not only that, the bottom line is as Lori looked at Tylee and knew that Tylee knew all about all the stuff that was going on. And Tylee was a constant reminder to Lori of everything Lori put Tylee through in her childhood, lying about being molested and convincing and coaching her daughter of being molested. Lori had to shed all of her past so she could embrace this bullshit with Chad Daybell. It's as simple as that. On Charles Vallow's fatal shooting, Gibb recalls how Lori told her about an argument in the house, a heated conversation over Charles's phone, and that Tylee got involved holding a bat before Alex Cox shot Charles. Alex Cox was Lori's brother and considered her protector. We've covered this shooting extensively. He claimed Charles hit him in the head with Tylee's bat before Alex shot him in self-defense. And I'll tell you what, we've said it many, many times. Charles Vallow was a minor baseball player, and if he'd have hit Alex, he'd have knocked his damn head off. To clarify, Melanie Gibb was not there. Blake asked where JJ was during the shooting. Gibb says she thinks he was outside waiting in the car, but she doesn't recall much. Lori is staring at Melanie Gibb. She appears to have her arms crossed or on the table. Melanie says that after Charles died, Lori and Chad were so happy, don't y'all know? Don't y'all know Lori and Chad were so happy that Charles Vallow was murdered? I guess Lori was happy before she made that phone call to the insurance company and she figured out that she wasn't going to get his $1 million life insurance policy. I think from there, she probably was still happy that she was getting the Johnson from Chad, but she didn't have the money. Remember Lindsay Blake? Sex, money, and power. Prior to Charles's death, Melanie says Chad and Lori communicated multiple times a day. Melanie says Lori had 2 to 3 cell phones. One phone was just for Chad. Would Chad and Lori meet up when Charles was alive? Gibb says they did. She recalls one time when Lori met with Chad at a hotel or went to the temple together. Isn't that sweet, y'all? They're going to the hotel. The king and queen are going to the hotel to bounce something down on a bed. Gibb gives a lot of information, but I've heard her use I don't recall or I don't remember. And this is coming from Justin Lum, y'all. And he says it, I can only interpret it the way I see it. Justin Lum brings this out that Melanie Gibb on the stand keeps saying stuff like, I don't recall and I don't remember. How safe does Melanie Gibb want to be in all this? She knows all this other stuff, but she just can't recall some of it, huh? Lori told Melanie that she and Chad would meet at hotels. Lori shared they were intimate while Charles and Tammy were still alive. Why do we need to use the word intimate? They were horn dogs. They were getting it on. Sex, sexual intercourse, all this bumping and grinding crap. Lori said this was according to God's will because they'd been married in multiple lives and had a mission together. And y'all recall Lori talking about having sex. When I start having sex with Chad, I'm going to do it 2 or 3 times a day. Well, I'll tell you what, Chad better invest in plenty of 2x4s that he can strap on so he don't fall in. During this testimony, Lori is frantically, y'all, taking notes in the courtroom. Wonder what those notes are about, y'all. Lori is frantically. She has to make sure to write everything down, don't you know? I can't wait to see what Thomas says. Melanie said right before JJ was killed, Lori said he was difficult to handle. It was hard for her to take care of him and be with Chad. Lori indicated she was going to ask Kay if Kay would take care of JJ going forward. And y'all remember this, some of the Rays on here, or all of them really. Lori told Melanie Gibb that she was going to tell Kay Woodcock that she had breast cancer. Now, explain to me, if she's going to go through all that trouble of saying that she's going to do this and everything, why didn't she just go through with it? Let JJ live. Let Tylee live. You know, maybe at this point they murdered Tylee, and Lori had to understand that when if she would have sent JJ to Kay, that JJ would have said, I want to see Tylee, I want to see my sister. And they knew that JJ wouldn't give it up. And then that would prompt Kay and Larry Woodcock to try to reach out because JJ would want to see his sister. Melanie said right before JJ was killed, Lori said he was difficult to handle. It was hard for her to take care of him and be with Chad. Lori indicated she was going to ask Kay if Kay could take care of JJ going forward. I think I've read that one, but I got mixed up there. I apologize. These are coming as they're coming, and I'm getting a little mixed up here. She indicated that she was going to ask Kay if she could watch him from now on, Gibbs says. Kay is the JJ's biological grandma, if you don't know the case. On Lori moving to Idaho, Melanie Gibbs says this happened maybe August of 2019, and Lindsay Blake asked who moved, and it was Lori, Tylee, JJ, and Alex. Melanie says she last saw Tylee in July or August of 2019 before Lori and Alex moved with the kids to Idaho. After Lori moved to Idaho, Melanie recalls talking with her on the phone, and Melanie heard Tylee in the background. Gibbs stayed in contact with Lori even when she got to Idaho and moved in. She heard Tylee in the background over the phone, but had never seen Tylee since before the family left Chandler. Lori asked Melanie to come visit her in Idaho in September of 2019. There was a seminar in Rexburg, so Melanie and her boyfriend, David Warwick, went up. They stayed at Lori's house. Melanie did not see Tylee, and Lori told Melanie that Tylee was at BYU, Idaho with roommates. I don't believe that. It's my opinion. Blake asks if Lori made a reference to Tylee. Gibbs says Lori didn't talk about her much and put her stuff in storage. So I guess the question is we've never heard Melanie Gibb talk about this aspect. Is this something Melanie Gibb is testifying to now that she knows that Tylee and JJ's stuff went into storage? Or did she know back then that Lori put Tylee's stuff in storage? That is a good question. Melanie saw JJ at the home. She says Lori told her about JJ and that he had an evil spirit in him. The only ones that had evil spirits in them, in my view, are these damn cult members, y'all. That poor, precious little boy. That poor, precious little boy. Not only is his sister not there anymore, Lori has taken his medication for his disability away from him. She's moved him around. She's kept him away from the people that love him the most. Melanie asked Lori about Tylee's belongings, and Lori said they had been put in storage. Lori didn't talk much about Tylee. Melanie did see JJ, and Lori told Melanie that JJ had an evil spirit in him. Lori learned this the day before from Chad. And y'all, we don't know that. We don't know that. Lori wanted to be on equal footing with this damn Chin. She said it herself. I was on equal footing with men. She was told by her brother Adam Cox when she said she was in the priesthood. He said it don't work that way in this religion. For all we know, she could have just told Melanie Gibb that Chad said this. And I'm not taking up for Chad Daybell. He's knee-deep in it too. But for anyone that wants to believe that Lori was sucked in with Chad Daybell, the only thing Lori sucked on, she knew what was going on. She's the one that was coming up with this crap herself. Lori told Melanie JJ's behavior was more difficult, and he would say things like, I love Satan. JJ would climb up on the fridge on top of the cabinets and was acting aggressively. Lori tried to explain how he was changing into a more negative type of behavior and demeanor. Y'all, there's no doubt in my mind that JJ must have sensed something. He must have sensed something. That little boy was special, and we can't put it past children. Remember many times in our lives where you don't think the kids know what's going on, but they know. They know. They know something's wrong. We try to hide our adult fights or our stresses, our anxieties about everyday living from our children, but they know. Blake asked, did she indicate what she made observations of JJ? And Melanie Gibbs says, Lori said JJ had become more difficult, his speech was more intelligent, and that he said, I love Satan. Gibbs says Lori told her JJ would climb up on the fridge and was changing. And you know what? JJ was growing. JJ was in special schools. He was thriving. His vocabulary was getting better. If he'd been on his medication like he needed to, that would have helped as well. It's ridiculous. Melanie says she did not notice any changes in JJ, and he appeared to be a typical 7-year-old autistic kid. Melanie has experience with autistic children. She says his behavior was normal. She never observed him climbing on counters, but one day he was upset, and Chad took him upstairs. Chad Daybell took JJ upstairs. I could just beat that man. I could just beat him. Chad Daybell took JJ upstairs? Oh my gosh. There ain't no telling. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, y'all. What, Lori needed to see how Chad was going to be with her autistic son that they were planning on murdering? After Chad took JJ upstairs, he came downstairs and Melanie asked Chad why his neck was so red. And Chad responded that JJ had scratched his neck. Y'all, I just don't know what to say to that. I just don't know what to say to that. Can you believe it, Gloria Fritz? Dodging bullets. Chad Daybell takes JJ Vallow upstairs, and when he comes back, his neck is red where JJ has scratched him. JJ knew, y'all. He knew Chad was an evil, evil man. Oh, my Lord. And Melanie Gibb wants to sit there and see that and not do anything. On the interaction between Lori and Chad, they were affectionate, sang and danced, according to Gibb. She went with them to BYU Idaho campus and saw them kiss when they were in the car. Is this the same Melanie Gibb who said they walked around the BYU track? This is the same college, y'all, that Tylee was supposed to attend. Why didn't they stop off and check on Tylee at the time? You know why? Because they all damn well knew Tylee was murdered and dead. These jurors are getting an earful, y'all. Melanie says Chad and Lori were very affectionate that weekend. She went with them to walk around the track at BYU Idaho, and they explored the campus. While they were exploring the campus, why don't they drop in on Tylee? She's going to school there, don't you know? As they were leaving, Chad gave Lori a hug and a kiss. Chad asked David Warwick not to share about his relationship with Lori with anyone. Well, why not? Why not, Chad Daybell? You and Lori been married 5 other times. Y'all were meant to be together. Y'all were going to leave the $144,000. When you want to start telling the world, it's coming, y'all. It's coming. The end of the world's coming. We are the king and queen of the $144,000. Come on, everybody. Let's get together. Let's go to the white tents. Give me a break. No, Erna Ansmich, Tammy Daybell did not work at BYU. She worked at an elementary school. Lori told Melanie that Moroni appeared to her in a temple on September 22nd. Melanie says the last time she saw JJ was on September 22nd as Alex was taking JJ upstairs. Melanie and David left the next day, and she does not recall seeing JJ before they left on September 23rd. Now let's stop there. Did anybody recall at all in her interview with police, Melanie Gibbs' interview, or at Chad's preliminary hearing, saying that the same day, September 22nd of 2019, which was on a Sunday, y'all, and Melanie Gibb and David Warwick stayed that weekend, they slept on a mattress together and all that crap. They never say anything about going to the temple that Sunday. In fact, I thought they went to look at some property. Remember that one? The Chad's preliminary hearing where David Warwick can't keep his story straight on who was actually there at the real estate, them going to see the real estate. This is interesting, y'all. I'm learning new things. Does anybody recall Melanie Gibbs saying that Sunday that Lori went to the temple? Because Melanie says that Moroni appeared to her in the temple on September 22nd. It's incredible, y'all. I just don't know what else to say. That feels in something for me. I'm going to have to really soak this up. Melanie remembers asking Lori before Charles died why he would want to kill her. Lori said it was because she had $1 million life insurance policy. Lori then said Charles had a life insurance policy, but if Charles died, all the money would go to Kay. At this point in time, Tammy Daybell was still alive. Melanie remembers the last time she saw JJ. It was on September 22nd of 2019 at night, and she watched Alex Cox carrying JJ in. She did not see him the next day. Melanie Gibbs says Lori said it was not the Lord's will for Chad or Lori to get a divorce from their spouses. They would be penalized, and Chad would lose his exaltation with God. Give me a break. Chad would lose his exaltation with God, but he can screw Lori in hotel rooms and in cars and all of this other stuff in Charles Vallow's house. Lori can't get a divorce from Charles. When Charles went to get one, she had to come back over there and be with him to make sure that his affairs were in order. Oh yeah, she stopped that divorce, pretended to want to get back and work things out with Charles Vallow so she could get a hold of that damn insurance money. Pure and simple. And Chad Daybell can kiss my country ass talking about losing his exaltation after he's having an adulterous affair with that damn hussy. Gibb never visited Lori after September of 2019, but stayed in contact occasionally. She also stayed in contact with Chad because he contacted her specifically before Thanksgiving. Gibb said Chad told her not to answer any calls from the Rexburg police. She remembers telling her that police questioned Lori about JJ's whereabouts. And this is when Melanie Gibb covers for Chad and Lori, y'all. This is when Melanie Gibb lies to police. And yet Melanie Gibb wants this jury to believe that she's credible. Melanie never saw JJ again after the night of September 22nd. She never returned to Idaho to see Lori again, but spoke with her occasionally. Melanie next heard from Chad around Thanksgiving. He told her the Rexburg police would be calling and told Melanie not to answer the phone. Y'all, I'm making mental notes of the stuff that Melanie Gibb has never said before. Now, we could say perhaps she didn't bring this up in her police interviews or at Chad's preliminary hearing, and maybe she's being more thorough in it now. But I'm telling you, those are very crucial details. Melanie says Chad was nervous, said the police are looking for JJ. Melanie said she thought JJ was with Kay, and Chad told her he was not. Chad told Melanie that Lori would be calling her. Melanie thought JJ was with Kay because Lori had told her she met with Kay at the airport, and she asked Kay to take care of JJ. And this is, just take this in, common sense. Lori was telling Melanie Gibb that Kay Woodcock was dark. Lori was telling Melanie Gibb that JJ had a zombie in him. And this is Lori's response to that. Oh, I'm going to send my zombie-possessed son to this dark Kay Woodcock? Y'all, give me a break. None of it makes sense. You know why? Because it was all a crock of shit. All it was about was those two horn dogs getting together and messing everyone's lives up and destroying lives. Gibb says Charles sounded nervous, and she asked, Gibb says Chad sounded nervous, and she asked if JJ was with Kay. She asked this because Lori told her before that JJ was with Kay after dropping him off at the airport. Gibb says she learned this info a few weeks after her visit. Gibb says Lori told her about the airport meeting. Lori allegedly told Kay that she had cancer. On the police visit, Gibb says Lori told Rexburg Police Department that JJ was with Melanie Gibb at the movie theater. Melanie Gibb says Lori told her to take pictures of kids running around. Why didn't Gibb respond to police right away? Says Lindsay Blake. And Melanie Gibb says she didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. She says, what a crock of shit. Police tried to get a hold of Melanie, but she did not take their call. I wasn't sure what in the world to do, says Melanie Gibb. Lori told Melanie the police were dark. Kay, Lori's dad, and her brother Adam Cox were also dark. Lori said JJ's life was in danger and Kay was trying to kidnap him. Melanie wasn't sure what to believe, says she was in shock and perplexed. Oh my gosh, y'all, give me a break. Oh my goodness. If Kay Woodcock was trying to kidnap JJ with Lori having full custody of that little boy, why didn't Melanie Gibb or Lori, why didn't they call the police? Huh? Oh, wait a minute. They didn't call them because they're in cahoots, don't you know? The police, all law enforcement, they're dark canes, don't you know? Everybody and their mama is against Lori and Chad. And, you know, JJ is in so much danger. You're damn right he was in danger from his own damn mother and that damn Chad Daybell and Alex Cox murdering his ass. I'm sorry, but this is making me angry. Jurors are looking down, taking notes, watching Gibb. Lori is taking notes as well. Blake asks about when Gibb eventually did speak with law enforcement, and Gibb says she spoke to Detective Ryan Pillar with the Gilbert Police Department. Melanie Gibb told police she no longer had JJ, which was a damn lie. She felt weird and uncomfortable. She just didn't know what to do. She lied to police right to their face, y'all. And make no mistake, they're going to go on to talk about it. They're going to have to address it, why she lied. She bought time for her king and queen. Oh, Phoebe came through for her James and Elena there. Y'all, Melanie Gibb is going to have to live with this. But I'm sure if she'll believe in this stuff, she will talk herself into believing that she's the hero in all of this. Melanie eventually spoke to police at the end of November, beginning of December, and said JJ had not been with her. So she does come clean. And the reason she had to, y'all, is because she has said, and this is, again, y'all know this channel's been open for 2 years. We got the Rays on here. We have been analyzing all of this stuff. These things are not theories and hypotheses unless I say they are. And the things that I bring up through the legal documentation and all of that, Melanie eventually spoke to police at the end of November, was because her and David Warwick got together overnight and they had to reevaluate their beliefs. They just couldn't believe that they were sucked into this. No, it had nothing to do with that, y'all. They were meeting together to figure out how to get the hell out of this. They went in to this cult feet first. Gibb would contact police again. It was in December of 2019. Lindsay Blake asked, "Did you tell law enforcement that JJ was never with you?" And Melanie Gibb says, "Oh yeah." She told them JJ had never been with her. Make no mistake, y'all, when Thomas cross-examines, he's gonna call her out for her lying. He would be negligent. It would be ineffective assistance of counsel for him not to call Melanie Gibb out for her damn lie. They might not be able to prove the fact that she's lying for omission over all this other stuff. She's getting off scot-free as far as I'm concerned, and it's not fair. Okay, y'all. Lindsay Blake tells Judge Boyce that she will enter exhibits, and this could take another 20 minutes plus. We're about to hear a phone call between Melanie Gibb and Lori, y'all. This was the phone call with Melanie Gibb and Lori. Blake says we can play the full call. This call has been heard before. It involves Melanie Gibb, Lori Hussey Daybell, and Chad Daybell. This is the call, y'all. And you can look this up on YouTube as well. All you put in the search engine is Melanie Gibb's secret recording. Put that in there. You'll hear it. Or you can go on Google and get the full word-for-word transcript of that call. This is a 20-minute call, and we're fixing to probably hear in terms of tweets. Many of us know what this phone call is all about, so I'm assuming they're going to touch on different points of the phone call. Zero says, first, Melanie Gibb was afraid of losing face to Lori. Now she's afraid of losing face with LDS. Good comment there. CHP says the jury's not going to be happy with Melanie Gibb. Thomas needs to emphasize her lies to law enforcement so they can discount her testimony. That is what I would do, says CHP. And in terms of Melanie Gibb's testimony, I don't believe a damn word this woman says. But the thing about it is because Melanie Gibb is testifying, they're bringing in, she's authenticating, yes, I'm Melanie Gibb. I'm the one that recorded this call between me, Lori, and Chad. That phone call, y'all, is damning. So that part, I believe the jury should take into consideration. But Melanie Gibb herself, what comes around goes around, and I hope somebody decides she's dark or that she has a zombie in her. Blake is now playing the call. Melanie records the conversation with Chad and Lori. Chad answers the call by saying, "Hello, sweet Melanie." Lori pours coffee or water for herself, y'all. We hear Lori and Chad on the recording laughing, happy, and greeting Melanie. In the recording, Gibb tells Lori she wants to ask about JJ and Kay. She says she's wondering what happened. And Lori says she had to move him elsewhere because of her actions. Speaking of Kay. In other words, Lori's telling Melanie, I had to move JJ somewhere else because of Kay's actions. And y'all just keep this in mind. And this is just me. I say that Melanie Gibb knew that Tylee and JJ had been murdered. There's no way that Lori and Chad would have got on this secret recording and said anything like, Melanie Gibb, you know what happened. Why is that, y'all? Why wouldn't this call have Lori and Chad implicate Melanie Gibb in knowing of Tylee and JJ's murder? Because that would mean they would implicate themselves. So they're playing along with this, y'all. They're playing along with it. And Melanie Gibb knows that Lori and Chad aren't going to say anything about it. We have both Lori and Melanie in the same courtroom listening to their conversation from nearly 4 years ago, says Justin Lum. In the recording, Chad and Lori tell Melanie that they want to keep JJ safe. They want to keep JJ safe, y'all. Melanie asks why Lori told police JJ was with her. And I'll tell you why. Y'all want to know why Lori told the police that JJ was with Melanie Gibb? Because Melanie Gibb was involved in all this all the time, and Lori and Chad felt like Melanie Gibb would lie for them, which she initially did, but because Melanie Gibb and David Warwick knew, this is over. We can't do this anymore. We're going to go to prison. They walked it back. These are my views. These are my theories. I believe Melanie Gibb and David Warwick knew damn well. Lori says that most of her family is working with Kay against her. When on the recording, when speaking of JJ, Lori says this, y'all. She says he is safe and he's happy. Do y'all think JJ was safe and happy with all that duct tape all over his body from jawline to jawline? Those plastic bags all over his body? Being bound by his ankles and his hands? Bruising on the arms? Y'all think JJ is safe and happy? I'll tell you what. Lori wants to say that. The only thing Lori really means is JJ is safe in terms of them not discovering my 7-year-old autistic little boy's body and throwing my ass in jail. That's what she meant by safe. I'm not going to tell anybody where JJ is so I can keep him as safe as possible. On the call, Gibb tells Lori that she talked to Alex about where JJ was. And she says Alex told her she doesn't want to know about JJ and that JJ could not be found. And, of course, we know, y'all, that Lori says, I don't know why Alex told you that. We haven't even told Alex about it. Well, Lori, your brother is a sick, twisted serial killer like you and Chad. He knew damn well. In the recording, how long are you going to be out? Are you going to come back, says Melanie Gibb. And Lori says, I will do whatever the Lord needs me to do. Somebody please jump over that banister in the courtroom and deck that damn whore. Deck her. Beat the living life out of her. Then she'll know. The Lord didn't tell her to do anything. Melanie asks Chad and Lori where they are. Chad giggles and says, we're just hanging out. They don't want to say where they are. And Melanie asks Lori what happened with JJ and why isn't he at Kay's house? And Lori doesn't answer the question but says people are after her. Chad says, if you knew where JJ was, that puts you in danger. Chad and Lori won't say where JJ is because Lori wants to keep him and everybody else protected. Now, why would Chad and Lori want to protect Melanie Gibb unless Melanie Gibb knows all about it? Melanie asks Lori if JJ is safe. She responds, he is safe and happy. And Melanie asks how it could hurt her if she knew where JJ was. And Lori says, oh, I'm just not telling anybody so that nobody has to say where he is or get questioned where he is so I can keep him as safe as possible. And then Melanie Gibb says, I hope he's okay. I hope you guys are okay. And Melanie says she asked Alex Cox where he was, and he said that JJ was where he couldn't be found, and that Melanie Gibb didn't want to know where JJ was. Lori won't tell Melanie where they are, and Melanie says she's worried for them. Lori says Kay is dark and working with the police. Lori says, I know exactly where JJ is. I know exactly where JJ is, says Lori Hussey Daybell. He is safe and fine. On the call, Lori mentioned prophets from the scriptures and how they had to hide in the cavity of a rock. Melanie reads a scripture to Lori about not fearing men more than God and being faithful. Melanie says if the door is open to Satan, he comes in and attacks. God doesn't work in darkness, Melanie says. And Lori responds, I agree 100%, and that is what the Lord is doing with me. And Melanie Gibb wants to sit there and say God doesn't work in darkness, and all that time Melanie Gibb is believing all this bullshit about Lori, we're in the temple and there's this heat on my head. I must be coming translated, Lori. Oh, I'm special. I'm the 144,000. Give me a break. Give me a break. In the recording, Lori says it's ridiculous that authorities are working with Kay in some dark capacity. There's no reason for them to be after her, she says. She claimed Kay has threatened her lots of times. And Kay never verbally threatened Lori at all. What Lori was speaking of is that she knew damn well when her and Alex murdered Kay's brother that Kay was going to hunt her ass down through law enforcement. That's the threat Lori saw. And the fact that she knew Kay and Larry Woodcock loved their grandson. And they were not going to be put off by Lori Hussey Daybell. Melanie wants to read a scripture to Lori on the phone. Lori asks if she could ask her a question and gets into biblical stories and figures. What about Moroni? What did he have to do in the end? Did he have to hide? She says to Melanie. And Melanie continues to read the scripture and is trying to teach Lori something per this call. The talk intensified and comes passive aggressive. I promise you, I've done nothing wrong in this case, says Lori. God doesn't work in darkness, Melanie says. Lori responds, I agree 100%, and that is what the Lord is doing with me. Lori says she's hiding in the cavity of a rock and that Kay is dark because she changed the life insurance policy with Charles. Lori says she doesn't know why Melanie is being so controversial with her and says she loves Melanie. And that's a very good point. Lori is saying, why are you being so controversial to me, Melanie Gibb? I.e., all this time, Melanie Gibb, you've been going right along with it. Now you're getting controversial. She goes on to talk about that I don't know if you're being controversial to me or recording this call. And from that point on, for many of y'all that's listened to it or will listen to it, either on YouTube or see the transcript in Google, the bottom line is the whole mood changes. Melanie says, if you really loved me, you would have not told the police I had JJ with me. Lori tells Melanie she did what the Lord told her to do. Melanie says Lori had been deceived. Tammy died. Charles died. Melanie says she has never had peace about all of this, and she has felt really weird in her stomach. Wonder if she felt real weird in her stomach when Lori and her and all them were getting in those castings and Melanie Gibb is Phoebe and all that other crap. Lori responds, you know me, Mel. This sounds like you've been influenced by somebody dark and that obeys dark things. Lori says Christ is coming soon and Melanie will know that Lori has not been deceived. Chad now comes onto the call and says his sister-in-law, Heather Daybell, has been deceived and coming up with theories. Chad says his own children said Tammy had been getting weaker and sick. Her heart was failing her and she was just physically falling apart. Although the day of the evening of Tammy's demise, she went and worked a full day of work, y'all. She had worked in an elementary school. Not to mention she was preparing to run a marathon. We did get some testimony yesterday that she did take some antidepressants and some prescription pain medications, but she wasn't in any serious health conditions. It really comes down to the conclusions on the autopsy report, y'all. On the call, Lori tells Melanie that she sounds like she's being influenced. And Melanie says, I have not been deceived. Chad Daybell speaks and says that his sister-in-law, Tammy's sister, is part of a dark team. Chad says he begged Tammy to go to the doctor. He says his kids were all there in the home when Tammy died. All these conspiracy theories are making me sick to my stomach. Let me just be clear about this. If Chad Daybell wanted Tammy Daybell to go to the doctor, he could have gotten her to go. It's just as common sense as it gets. Lori tells Melanie that they can feel that Dave's influence on her, that's David Warwick, y'all, referring to Gibbs' boyfriend, they feel that he's got influence on her. And Lori says, I'm sorry for including you in these teachings. I'm so sorry for including you in these teachings, Melanie Gibbs. She might as well say, because now I can't use you to cover up the fact that I murdered my children and Charles Vallow and Tammy Daybell. Chad says he's known for years that Tammy would die at a young age, and his life will have two segments. Chad says you have to have faith in the master plan. And Melanie says, you can understand my concerns, can't you? And Chad says, from an outsider's perspective, he can see, but her boyfriend seems to be putting doubts in her mind. Melanie says she was not listening to her gut feeling and feels uncomfortable with many things. It's so interesting, is it not? Melanie Gibb can armchair quarterback all this, back out of her involvement in all of this. Melanie says she was reading the story of Korihor and his carnal and natural desires. And Korihor, y'all, comes out of the Book of Mormon. Lori says, you think I'm Korihor? Are you kidding me right now? Melanie says both Chad and Lori had similarities to Korihor. Lori says she lives up to the scriptures, and Melanie says she feels Lori has wrested the scriptures. Lori is upset Melanie would say this. And when we're speaking of wrested the scriptures, basically Chad and Lori took whatever they were going to take out of either the Book of Mormon or the Holy Bible, and they wrested them. In other words, they used them in their own selfish, evil, diabolical planning of the murders of Charles Vallow, Tammy Daybell, and those two beautiful, innocent children. Oh, listen to this, y'all. Gibbs says to Lori Vallow on the call, honey, you got a lot of natural desires. We all know that. And of course, y'all know that Lori said, well, yeah, you do too. And that's when Melanie Gibbs said, well, we're not here to talk about that. And listen to this, y'all. Does this surprise you at all? Justin Lum tweets out a lot of code language on this phone call, it appears. Let's just repeat that, y'all. A lot of code language on the phone call, y'all. So Melanie Gibb is speaking code with her king and queen, don't you know? That's something that's never been brought out, although we know that Melanie Gibb, Melanie Pulowski, Zulema, and Alex stood behind Zulema's house late in November and was trying to come up with code words because Chad and Lori had already taken off and they were all trying to keep themselves safe. These are these evil, diabolical, nasty-ass cult members, y'all. Lori tells Melanie she's being adversarial, but Lori tells Melanie Gibb, y'all, I love you. And both Melanie and Lori are looking down right now in the courtroom, and they should look down because both of them were knee-deep in shit in all of this. Melanie Gibb is a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. This is my opinion. I'm sticking to it. The call begins to wind up with Lori saying, I'm sorry you are friends with all these people who are against me. And Melanie says she isn't friends with any of them. She doesn't know Kay. She doesn't know Chad's sister-in-law. And then Nate Eaton, he tweets the phone call. You can get it on YouTube. It's called Melanie Gibb Confronts Chad and Lori Daybell. Okay, you can type that into the search engine for those that have not been keeping up with this. It will blow your mind if you have not been watching this case. I'm telling you. These people are disgusting. And the recording, the phone call, just think, y'all. Just think about this. Those children's bodies were still in the ground. Those children's bodies were in Chad's backyard as they're speaking of this. It's absolutely despicable. Despicable. Melanie says Lori's behavior is not one of someone who believes in Christ. Lori says Melanie sounds pissed off. And Melanie responds, I'm troubled. These things like you being with Chad before he's even divorced. And Lori says, I was never with him and he was never divorced. And Melanie says, honey, I've seen you guys together. Oh, there you go, Melanie Gibb. This woman who wants to say this isn't anything like Christ, but she's gone along all this damn time, seeing them hook up in hotels and doing everything, committing adultery on Tammy and Charles Vallow. And Melanie Gibb wants to come in here on the stand and say, this is not someone who believes in Christ. What the hell, Melanie Gibb? What about you? You mess with shit, you get it all over you, Melanie Gibb. On the call, Lori says Melanie sounds accusatory, pissed off, and not concerned. Melanie says she's troubled. Lori and Melanie take jabs at each other on the call about being with someone before they're divorced. They both were, y'all. They both were. We are both standing there with Jesus Christ, Lori says before she hangs up on Melanie. This is the point where Judge Boyce says this would be a good time to take a break. Well, so it's break time, y'all. Let me see what Nate has got to say quickly. I'll read some of y'all's comments. They're going to be back in 20 minutes. Lori says Jesus Christ is protecting her and will protect her against the accusations Melanie has made against her. And then Lori ends the call. And you know, when Lori wants to say that Jesus Christ is protecting her, is she saying that Jesus Christ is protecting Lori from anyone finding the murdered bodies of her children? Is that what this is all about? And, you know, besides that, you know, well, how about this, y'all? Is Jesus Christ protecting her as she sits her ass at the defense table in a triple murder case, facing life in prison? Well, I don't think Jesus Christ is keeping her safe because Jesus Christ was never with her at all for her to have done this. Just maybe Thomas will ask her about her immunity and somehow traps Mel into her lies, and she will be in a cell. Well, we know at Chad's preliminary hearing, John Pryor asked Melody Gibb on the stand whether or not she had been given a deal from the state. She said absolutely not. So there you go on that. Lori made the concept inside of her head to fill in for what she thinks of God. It serves as the thing she can scapegoat for her actions, says Little Bronze. And for those that are not normally on this channel, just know this. My name's KJ. I'm from Tennessee. I've opened this channel to get the rays in here. I am a very enthusiastic person. If you don't like the yelling, you don't like any of that, this is not the channel for you. This is how I express myself. You are the only you're ever going to be. I accept you and respect you for who you are. I hope you will extend the same courtesy to me. I'm very honored that everybody would be here. 2 years ago, if you had told me that I was going to be sitting here on a live stream going between Nate Eaton and Justin Lum on this case, I would have laughed you out of the room. We had no idea they would take the cameras out of the courthouse and that we're stuck with shitty damn sketches. I'm sorry, that's my opinion, and audio. I'm doing this for the rays. We've worked too hard for all of this. I have no problem following KJ's accent. It is far from deep south. Yeah, because, I mean, shoot, you go down there to Florida or Louisiana, Mississippi, places like that. I'm in East Tennessee. Thank you, Grammy B. Oh, yeah, definitely. We got into this, y'all. We got into this today. There's a 20-minute break going on. Little Bronze brings up a point. For any of y'all that don't know, there's a channel on YouTube called Difficult Research, and it is Cresha K. Easton. She is the daughter of Larry and Kay Woodcock and the aunt of J.J. Vallow. She has an awesome catalog of all her research on this case. She had a live stream a couple of days ago. She's been in the courtroom with her family saying things that she cannot unsee. Please go to her channel. Be supportive of her. This channel was opened 2 years ago to get justice through understanding. We all want to be supportive of the victims' family members. I've been down to Louisiana. I've met Cresha, Larry, Kay, their whole family. They're wonderful people. What you see is what you get with them. They are absolutely incredible people. So all the rays on here, which stand for Research, Analysis, and You, thank y'all so much for helping me through this, because y'all know I had no idea I was going to be doing this. The name of the channel, Ashley, is called Difficult Research. And when you go on there, it's Cresha K. Easton. Difficult Research. Well, I'm glad you're here, Diana. I love you too, Pam Keith. Tracy Artman. Jax Gustafson. Cresha is awesome. I enjoy her podcast. She's got one heck of a catalog, y'all. She's got one heck of a catalog. Thank you, Jennifer Esslinger. Irene, I remember that too. I remember when I found you and Cresha together on a live, I was like, who is this woman yelling? Y'all, KT has put it in the comments. Difficult Research, Cresha K. Easton. Please, you will absolutely be blown away. There's nothing I can do. There's not enough amount of tweets on this case that will add up to what Cresha K. Easton has done. Please, go there. Thank you, Ashley Ryan. You'll be glad you did. She gets very in-depth in everything. She shares her emotions as a victim's family member, that perspective. You know, we all watch these trials, the crime genre community and all of that. Usually you get to see the trial and all that, but I believe this trial is obviously, there's never going to be another one like this. And especially now the way it's having to play out. And so we are getting a different look at a trial, which we may never in our lifetime again have to deal with live update tweets or, you know, the audio of it. This trial, it's absolutely, in my opinion, in my 52 years of my life, one of the most consequential trials in a criminal trial in a lifetime. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. I love you, Bryn Marshall, Janelle Murphy, Jean P. And for all the Rays in here, please, if anybody's got a question, I'm not being able to get to all these comments. Please help OKJ. I don't have moderators. This is a little itty bitty channel that I opened so we could all get together. This isn't a show. This is just everyday living people here on here. So if anybody's got a question or need information about difficult research or this case, please, y'all, step up. The Rays have always stepped up for me and educated me. Please step up for maybe people that have just come onto this channel. Okay? It would be really nice. I would appreciate that. Oh, and by the way, because I don't have mods, if somebody does hop on here that wants to argue, wants to say something mean, please, I'm asking you. OKJ's asking you. Just ignore them. That's all they want. That's all they want. They just want to get a rise out of you. I guarantee you, if somebody wants to attack me or anyone on here, I guarantee your ass. They wouldn't do it in my face. They wouldn't do it in my face. You know, I've got enough bond money. I mean, I'm a very nonviolent person, but I'm going to tell you what, these people have been awful. Through the 2 years that I have had this channel open, y'all don't even begin to know how many comments on the pre-records I've had to erase so that none of the Rays have to read that garbage. It's pathetic. We've got a serious criminal, evil, diabolical case. Children have been murdered. Innocent people like Tammy and Charles have been murdered. And people want to come in and spread a little evil themselves. I don't appreciate it, and I just don't. Y'all, we're in a break, 20-minute break. I want to call out a few of these comments that I had printed off. Maria Thomas said, in terms of Justin Lum and Nate Eaton, and y'all know they've been on this from day one. Maria Thomas says, I agree with you 100% in terms of them. They need to get an award, a journalism award. I agree with you 100%, my dear friend. They both have done a phenomenal job in helping reporting and interviewing people who were around these people who were allegedly involved or allegedly involved or around the people who committed these heinous crimes with their religious and church beliefs. It was all about sexual intercourse, false religion, hatred, jealousy, greed, and the almighty dollar, and taking individual lives as if they are the creator. She should have never been, she should not be sitting in jail, eating, reading books, acting like she's having a mental breakdown, and acting as if she is a goddess. How do one forgive someone like these people? Neither of these individuals are innocent of their crimes. They all have played a part in it one way or another. All of them are complicit. Look at the souls that have been taken from the earth. Justice for all the victims and their families. I am not a hateful person, but this is too much, and my heart goes out to the victims' families. I wish I could fix what was done and bring the others back, except for Alex Cox. Rayetta Haskins says it's so heartbreaking for all these families going through this ordeal. Larry, Kay, Crescia, Charles's 2 sons and all of their family, Annie Cushing, her daughter and their families, Kobe's, Tammy's family and her children, and Brandon Boudreaux. So many people and families changed forever because of cold and callous hearts. One has to be cold and callous to have done so much evil. I still think they murdered Joe Ryan first. Prayers for all of them to feel the Lord's strength in them. Justice is finally coming to this evil woman. Larry Woodcock is such a sweet man. Tara Santmeyer says, I want her head. I would have lost it if Judge Boyce allowed her to have missed out on seeing how her plans worked out on her children. Where's your balls now, Lori? Just following God's orders? Crazy how confident she seemed and how stupid everyone else was, and how we would see this was a big mistake. The fact that JJ had bruises on his arms means he was alive, and I can't go much further than that. I can't wait to see Chad sniveling ass and listen to him trying to be cool on a phone call that will be released. How is that even real, you guys? This has changed my perception of humanity. It's not cool. Seriously. And again, y'all, the jurors just heard that phone call. Melanie Gibbs speaking with Lori and Chad. And, you know, if you take this into the timeline and what all they'd already taken off to Hawaii, they wouldn't tell Melanie Gibb where they were at. At the beginning of the call, Chad's saying, oh, sweet Melanie, and they're giggling and laughing. You can almost picture them probably laying in bed together or on a couch together, just holding each other tight over there in Hawaii. You know, they knew the hammer was coming down. At any time during any of this, Lori could have said, Chad, you know, where are my kids? We need to go to police. We need to get in a room, as my mother says, and take a picture of the kids so they'll leave us alone. But no, the statement from the attorney of Chad and Lori Daybell at the time, whose was Attorney Barthlick, said, these are great parents, and we'll get with y'all when we get beyond rumor and speculation. Y'all, rumor and speculation was not rumor and speculation. The police, all law enforcement agencies involved in all of this, whether it was the FBI, Gilbert Police in Arizona, whether this was Fremont County, whether this was Madison County, Rexburg, all of that, they all got together. They knew, they absolutely knew this was going to be bad. And they had to do what they had to do, you know, to start to build this case and this investigation. It's incredible, really. I mean, this is day 4, y'all. This is day 4. Listen to everything we've heard so far. It's absolutely mind-blowing what we've heard. Actually, it's only 3.5 days, because yesterday wasn't a full day. Today, we don't know how long they'll go. They might go the full day. I hope they go the full day so we can get the full day's testimony in. That's what I'm hoping for. Lori, when the judge said this was a good time to take a break, Lori has her arms crossed, looks at the gallery as we rise for the jury. So the break is going on right now, and I'm so thankful all of y'all are here. Again, this is all new to me. This is my 4th day of doing this, and I'm doing this for 2 reasons. Number one, to commemorate the victims and the victims' family members, and also for the Rays on here who has stuck by me through thick and thin, through 2 years of us trying to hold it together. Just to hold it together to see this go to trial. Yeah, Taylor Poole, that's going to be a tough one. I wonder how Nate and Justin are going to tweet about that. We got some idea, y'all, about this graphic stuff and everything. Not yesterday, but the day before. To me, the most devastating testimonies thus far, and I believe will probably be the most devastating. I think the medical examiner would be more professional in terms of using the medical terms and stuff like that, but when you've got Ray Hermosillo talking about the way that those children were found, that to me has been the most devastating of all of this to me. Okie dokie was commenting when it came to the victims' families, and specifically Larry Woodcock, saying, I love Larry. And I mean, I know Larry said that they were ready, but you really can't be ready for this. It's too much for his big old heart to take. Sending all love and strength to the many victims. RDNAC says, I've heard that you are very powerful on your birthday. And she's speaking of Larry Woodcock. This was his birthday yesterday. Because all the planets are lined up perfectly to give you strength. So I pray that Larry's restored and supercharged on this day. My love to the family. And I just want to make it clear that here on this channel, we have many different perspectives, belief systems. We all respect and honor everyone as being the only you that you're ever going to be. There are things that I will say in my beliefs, in my upbringing, that maybe you will disagree with. Just understand we all have a right to demonstrate who we are. Can you imagine how pissed Lori must be right now? She was probably sitting there doing a solo casting on Melanie Gibb for the last 2 hours straight. Oh, y'all remember at Chad's preliminary hearing, they barely scratched the surface with Melanie Gibb's testimony. They didn't have to show their whole hand. And so just enough to bind over to trial, but you saw Chad Daybell with that dang doofus look on his face, that sling blade serial killer look on his face. Give me some taters. Give me a large. Thank you, Jenny. Sure difficult to cast into a very strong wind, says Jennifer. Let me tell y'all something. Melanie Gibb, y'all know for 2 years I have went on and on about that damn woman. She is, she's incredible, really. And I don't mean that in a positive way. To know that she has given testimony today that includes a lot of I don't recall, I don't remember, and then to confirm whether we can believe her or not, it's beside the point. Her testimony to those jurors is that the day, September 22nd of 2019, when I believe JJ was murdered. Some believe that he was murdered overnight into the 23rd. The bottom line is, as Lori went to the temple that day. Well, I wonder if Melanie Gibb was with her. Did she say that in her testimony? I guess Thomas, old Jiffy Burger boy there, is going to have to flesh all this out. Not to mention that Thomas is going to be asking why Melanie Gibb lied. Yeah, it is going to be good, Beverly. Deanna Phillips says, I just found you. I love you. Deanna Phillips, I love you too. Anytime that anyone tells me they love me, I take that very, very personal. Never, ever, ever, if someone says they love you, please tell them you love them back, because we're not promised tomorrow. That is a special gift when someone says, I love you. Whether they mean it or not, whether you think they mean it or not, whether you really, truly love them back, at least try. Thank you, Beverly. Thank you, Renee, and Dodging Bullets. John Pryor is there. I guess he just got over his hangover. Oh, says Kristen 09. Deanne Phillips, you know, there's been a lot of talk about what actually happened to Alex Cox. And there are a lot of theories and a lot of hypotheses surrounding that. Considering his death was the day after the exhumation of Tammy Daybell's body, you know, some people might say, well, he just got so messed up and was freaked out, and he already had these heart conditions. He'd already been speaking earlier in the week before her exhumation that when he bent over, he was out of breath and all that. He took a ride down to Mexico to get meds and all this and that. Some people believe that Chad and Lori got Zulema to poison Alex. And when we say poison, it could have been anything, really, that will not show up on a regular toxicology report. As many of y'all remember, when Alex Cox's autopsy and all that stuff, the medical report came out, we went over it. We went over every damn piece of every paper of any legal document, any law enforcement released items, anything. We've done this for 2 years. Then others believe that Alex, it was all natural causes, because on that it said they found no drugs in his system other than that EpiPen. And I got mixed up. Y'all remember me almost 2 years ago saying maybe he OD'd on the EpiPen, and then I laughed my ass off because I realized that didn't make a damn bit of sense. But I, in my own heart and in my own mind, I believe Alex, in his own way, committed suicide. That's just an opinion. I can't back that up. I believe this all goes hand in hand with Chad's written blessing to Alex Cox, which was that they found that when they towed Alex's truck at him and Zulema's house in Vegas, I believe. It was probably Vegas, or it was Arizona. One or the other. We've seen the video of that as well, where they came. It was during Christmas time to take possession of Alex Cox's truck. Inside the glove compartment was a blessing from Chad Daybell. We've also got factual information from law enforcement documents that speak of that Chad had spoken to Alex and blessed him. We know that Zulema at the hospital, when they took Alex there, acted like she didn't know Lori and them. I mean, if you really got in deep with this case and looked at every single factual strand and thread of this case, you'll know that the only reason Melanie Gibb, David Warwick, Melanie Pulowski, Zulema, possibly Ian, Audrey Bartario, April Raymond, any of these people, the only reason they are there to testify against this hussy is to get their own asses out of trouble. They were involved in this, and I have stated this for so long. Chad and Lori would have never felt emboldened to do what they did if they didn't have all of these followers. You can't have the king and queen of the 144,000 without people believing it. And they all believed it. Melanie Gibb can sit there and lie through her damn teeth and say, I just didn't feel right about any of this. I had this feeling in my stomach. Give me a break, y'all. She was there the whole time. She was orgasmic, thinking she was part of the 144,000. She wanted this sensual feeling of feeling important. She wanted her ears tickled. She wanted to be part of this situation more because she didn't think she was getting enough in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the mainstream they call it. A lot of this stuff comes from that, y'all. They took from all different kinds of things. It wasn't just this organized religion of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but what I'm saying is none of them were happy. None of them were happy. They knew there were people out there that were in higher status than them. They wanted the power. They wanted the money. They wanted the sex. And really, y'all, let's just get down to the nitty-gritty. How in the hell does Chad Daybell and Lori Daybell convince even more people? Because this was just the formation. This was a small group that started out that helped to lift them up on these podiums in their own freaked out mind. But how could Chad and Lori convince others to join them in all this if they didn't have any money? I mean, Chad got Tammy's life insurance. How long was that going to last? And Lori, she couldn't put her part in it other than it's just pathetic. This woman was using government assistance of her autistic son to finance her bullshit, her leggings, her makeup, her Botox. Give me a break. $6,000 a month, she tells Melanie Gibb. Well, I'll tell you something. She tells Chad in a text message after finding out she's not a beneficiary of Charles's life insurance that it's $4,000. But damn, folks, $4,000, $6,000, that's money. A lot of us, that is money. And isn't it always about that anyway? It's always about that. Okay, y'all. Lori is seated. She's talking with Archibald alone. They're back in section. He's nodding and responding to her. I expect a long testimony from Gibb and through cross-examination from the defense regarding what she actually saw and heard from Lori Vallow over a lengthy timeline. Gibb is back on the stand. Direct examination continues. Blake asked why Gibb recorded that call. And Gibb says she did this in connection to JJ's safety and to see if she could find out more. No, it ain't. She needs to get real. She's trying to get her ass out of trouble. My gosh, y'all. It's so stupid. Melanie Gibb is back on the stand testifying against the woman who used to be her best friend, says Nate Eaton. Melanie says she recorded the call with Chad and Lori because she wanted to know where JJ was, and she hoped to learn where Chad and Lori were. Yeah, she leaves out she wanted to get herself out of trouble. Isn't that what she said at Chad's preliminary hearing? Why not go ahead and say that to the jurors now? Melanie said the weekend she stayed at Lori's house, Melanie stayed in Tylee's room, but she went back and forth into David's room, don't y'all know, who was sleeping in JJ's room. David woke up very troubled from a dream. Yeah, Melanie Gibb was going back and forth. I don't think so. She slept with David Warwick in that room, going back and forth in David's room. What, to service him? This was about David Warwick's dream, y'all. Melanie went to Lori's room. Okay, think about this, y'all. Visualize this. Melanie went to Lori's room. This is in the middle of the night, y'all, and texted her and Chad to ask if David could get a blessing. And nobody responded to Melanie's text, and Lori's door was locked. Now let's stop there. If Melanie Gibb is going to Lori's bedroom door, why not go ahead and knock on it? She can't say, well, I didn't want to wake Lori up, because she texted Lori and Chad. You know why she texted Lori and Chad? Because they were together. And Melanie Gibb knew damn well they were together. That's why she texted them. Think about that. And if Melanie Gibb didn't think that Chad was with Lori and that Chad was home, because remember, Tammy's still alive, y'all. Why would she text Chad in the middle of the night if Tammy's home with Chad? You see, she knew they were together. She knew it. Gibb remembers her boyfriend David Warwick waking up from a bad dream during their stay at Lori's. She then called Lori and Chad for a blessing. Gibb says she tried opening Lori's door, but it was locked. Well, I'll tell you, she's texted Lori. Why not call her where you can hear the phone on the other side of the door? The opening door, Lori's door there, but it was locked. Well, if it was locked and Melanie thought Lori was in the room and she's already texted her, why not go ahead and bang on it? Because it ain't about not waking up Lori, is it? Or is it about Melanie Gibb saying, well, JJ was in there with Lori? The next morning, Gibb and David Warwick left. They did not see JJ. Blake wants to go over the call, that call of December 8th of 2019, the one that they played in the courtroom. Yeah, they're skipping over this real quick. I hope these jurors are really listening to this. The next morning, Melanie never saw JJ, and Lori never told Melanie where JJ was from that point forward. Melanie says she believes the origins of multiple probations, lives, etc., came from Chad and are not taught in the traditional LDS faith. I guess that's up to everyone to discern that. Melanie says when Lori was having her relationship with Chad, Lori's behaviors did not represent someone who would know Christ at that level. Lori had told Melanie that she had seen Jesus in the temple and that he appeared to her. I guarantee you, y'all heard me say it. If Jesus Christ appeared to me, you know what would happen? I'd probably fall down on the floor and die instantly. That's just how holy Jesus Christ is. That's my opinion. It's my belief. I believe it. Blake asked about revelations and if people in the LDS church get revelations, and Melanie says yes. You're going to be accountable for the knowledge you do have, says Blake, as Blake cites this from the phone call. Gibbs says this is about the teaching she learned from her and that she would be accountable to God. Did Lori indicate that she had seen Jesus? And Gibbs says she did. Lori said Jesus appeared to her in the temple. Blake says if Lori was seeing Jesus, would that lead people to turn to her for advice? And Gibbs says, no, I don't believe so. funny, these people, they can get these revelations that are supposed to be true, but none of them can figure out during the time that there's this premeditated plan to murder these innocent people, that they would eventually go on trial and all this other stuff. It's interesting, to say the least. Waiting on a refresh, y'all. And really, I just want to know if Melanie Gibb did not really believe in any of this, then why in the hell is she wanting Chad or Lori to give David Warwick a blessing because he's had this terrible nightmare? Give me a break, y'all. Give me a break. Melanie learned about Tammy's death the day after her death was reported. A friend sent a screenshot from Chad's Facebook account announcing the death. Melanie then called Lori. It was mid-morning, and Melanie told Lori about Tammy's death. She knew something was going on. Two of the girls from their group had called Lori and inquired about it. And y'all remember, Lori is in Hawaii during this time. That's her alibi, which, according to Idaho law, she's still screwed. Melanie asked Lori what happened to Tammy. Lori responded she had a dark entity in her, and they had to do what they could to get that spirit out of her. They referred to Lori and Chad. Lori said Tammy was starting to get suspicious that Chad was having an affair. Imagine that, y'all. Poor Tammy. All those years of being married to Chad Daybell, 26, 28 years, 5 children, working a full-time job, and that damn horn dog wants to stick it in a damn hussy. Isn't that just like a man? And I'm not calling all men like that, but it's just ridiculous. And Lori confirms when she says Tammy was starting to get suspicious that Chad was having an affair. Well, I thought this was ordained. I thought they'd been married several times and that they didn't see this as an affair. Give me a break. Give me a break. On Tammy's death, Gibb says she asked Lori if she knew what she died from, and Gibb recalls Lori had found out through some other people. Gibb asked Lori what happened, and Lori says a dark entity was in Tammy, and they did what they had to do to get it out of her. And they was Chad and Lori. Again, y'all, this is going between Nate Eaton of East Idaho News and Justin Lum of Fox 10. Going back and forth, they both have somewhat of the same information, but there are little slight variations, and I want to make sure to get both of these fine journalists on the record here, since we are going to have to wait for the audio later on this evening. Blake asked Gibb how long Lori believed Tammy was dark or possessed. Gibb says about 2 weeks before Tammy died, and that Tammy had also become suspicious about an affair between her husband and Lori. And isn't that interesting? I mean, doesn't that just kind of line up? Chad and Lori had figured out that Tammy is not a dumbass. And so she just, because they know that Tammy would have caused them issues, they just absolutely had to come up with a new damn name. Viola, my ass. They wanted to take her out for her insurance, as evidenced in the fact that Chad Daybell increased her life map insurance. An interesting enough fact, the same day that Tylee and JJ are at Yellowstone, the last known pictures of Tylee, which was September 8th of 2019, that's on a Sunday. This is the same day that Tammy and Chad Daybell are at the house increasing the life map insurance. Everything was running smooth for old Chatty boy, don't you know? After Tammy passed away, Melanie said Lori was very happy to get to marry Chad. Lori never expressed any sadness or sorrow. Melanie said Lori's demeanor was similar after Charles's death. Well, of course, because these people are absolutely psychopathic, narcissistic, psychotic, evil people who don't give a rat's ass about anyone but themselves and getting themselves off, if you know what I mean. Blake says, do you also recall a trust scale? And Gibbs says, a little bit. I don't remember trust scale. And Gibbs says the term percentage was used at times, and that Lori used the term scale and vibrations. And maybe the reason why Gibb don't really want to delve into that, because I guarantee you, on this trust scale, Lori and Chad trusted Melanie Gibb with everything until the shit hit the fan, basically. Melanie says Lori told her about vibrations that were equal to your level of spirituality. If you are 1,000, you are at the terrestrial level. The more your vibrations increased, the closer your body was to being translated. Well, I'll tell you what, that's all crazy talk. The only vibrations that I could think is that Chad and Lori vibrated on each other. I mean, maybe Lori purchased her a couple of those dang colorful vibrators. I don't know, but this is really absolutely pathetic that these people want to believe this crap. And for those that don't know this, a translated being is someone who don't have to pee, shit, eat. It can if somebody shoots at you, it'll stop a bullet. Oh yeah, she's becoming translated, all right. That's why her ass is sitting in a damn jail cell right now, headed off to prison. Give me a break. You know, every time she gets on that dang jail pot there and squeezes one off. I'm sorry, y'all. I have to do it because I cannot stand what these people represent. Every time she squeezes one off, she has to remind herself that it's a holy shit. Lori said her vibration level was such that she didn't need to eat and her menstrual cycle could change. Lori did not claim she had visions, according to Melanie, but Lori said she had a dream here and there. So Lori y'all, I mean, I'm going to talk about it. Lori, she didn't need to eat and she didn't have a menstrual cycle. Well, I'll tell you what, that was probably a good thing for old Chatty. You know, he don't like them Bloody Marys. You know, he likes the bottom line is she was herself. I mean, it's just my view. She was possessed with whatever, and you know, this menstrual cycle stuff. Get for real, y'all. And it was talked about in some of those text messages with Zulema. Y'all remember that? Oh Lord, if any of you women out here that are menstruating, you know, you get the cramps, the blood and all that, and you're tired of those tampons and those dags, those maxi pads, just go join a cult with Chad and Lori where you become a translated being, and then you won't have to deal with that anymore. It's called menopause, says Candace Parr. Somebody had said a while back, Lori's going to be in prison going through menopause. Here we go. Melanie said these teachings were shared with Alex Cox, and he believed the people Chad and Lori were hoping would pass away, which were Charles, Tylee, JJ, and Tammy. He believed that they were zombies. So Chad and Lori made sure to take Alex Cox, who's one slice of bread short of loaf, would do anything for his sister, has been told by Chad Daybell that his mission on this probation and this earth, because he's lived in other lives too, he was a good guy in other lives. He was helpful to children and stuff. You know why Chad told Alex Cox that in his blessing? To make Alex Cox feel better over the fact that Alex, Chad, and Lori chopped up and burned beautiful Tylee and did what they did to JJ Vallow. And the bottom line is Chad and Lori told Alex this, and he told Zulema, I believe it 100%. 100%, he says. Chad and Lori used Alex Cox as the weapon, the murder weapon. Because, I mean, the bottom line is Chad and Lori are cowards. And I'm not saying they didn't participate. It's my opinion. Lori was there when they were doing that to JJ. That's my opinion. I have no proof of that, but I believe it. I rely on the blue blanket. I rely on the whole BS from Melanie Gibb about texting Chad and Lori that evening and all of that stuff. I believe Lori was there. She sent a text message to Melanie Gibb saying, be there soon. Getting JJ to sleep. Getting JJ to sleep. Blake has no further questions, y'all. John Thomas, Jiffy Burger Boy, will conduct the cross-examination for the defense. Thomas asked Melanie when she last met with prosecutors. She says, I don't remember, a few years ago. Melanie says she did not meet face-to-face with prosecutors for the trial, but they did meet on Zoom. Thomas asked about that last interaction with prosecution. Gibb paused and tried to remember. She said it could have been at the end of last month, and she's referring to a Zoom call with the prosecuting attorneys. I've been waiting on this, y'all. Thomas asks about when the last visit was prior to that, and Gibb, prior to last month's Zoom call, y'all. Gibb says a year before that. So Thomas asks if she recalls a 7-page outline she sent to Rob Wood, and Gibb remembers. Now, this is something new. Melanie Gibb likes to send those dang letters. She sent one to Aval. It was a 7-page letter, but this is a 7-page outline she sent to Rob Wood. And let's find out what it was. Nobody tells it like Melanie Gibb. Isn't that what she said in her interview? Y'all need my help. No one will tell it like old Melanie Gibb. Melanie says she went over her testimony with prosecutors at the beginning of this month or the end of last month. Thomas asked if Melanie was as forgetful with prosecutors when they met earlier as she was today, and Melanie says yes. So Thomas brings out the I don't recalls, I forgot. Thomas is basically saying, well, you just met with them to go over your testimony last month, and here you are saying you've forgotten, I don't recall. Y'all, it's a good point. And I told you all that they were going to chew these cult members up and spit them out. And the state was rolling the dice by doing this. Thomas asks about a 7-page document she created with her testimony. She said she completed it in 2020. Thomas asks the court to strike the witness. Blake interjects and asks for a sidebar conversation. White noise is played in the courtroom as attorneys meet with the judge. And so does this have to do with this 7-page document of her testimony that she created in 2020, and yet she's sitting here and he's bringing out the fact that she's forgetting certain things on the direct examination by Lindsay Blake, and he says, I object and ask for a sidebar, though Blake is saying I object and ask for a sidebar conversation because Thomas is asking the court to strike this witness. He's not smart enough to take her apart like most good defense attorneys would have. Y'all, I took pre-law. I double minored in psychology in college. My major was political science, but the bottom line is even I could have gotten up there and chewed her up and spit her out. And he wants to just completely have her stricken from it. It won't happen, but we'll just see what happens. If he has this done, then he can do that with any of these other cult members. I don't think it's going to happen. He hasn't given a reason why, other than he's talking about that she met on a Zoom call with prosecutors last month. Okay, so it's not it's not Melanie Gibb that he wants stricken. He wants the testimony of Melanie Gibb stricken. A sidebar is requested by Lindsay Blake, and they're going over it right now. I told y'all there was going to be problems with these state's witnesses. They were knee-deep in shit and all of it, every bit of it, and how the state thought they could tiptoe around that. Okay, y'all, it says judge has asked the jury to leave so this objection can be argued. So we're fixing to find out what Thomas... he had to have thought about this before coming in there today. He must have, he directly goes into this, when did you meet with prosecutors? And all of that. So he knew what his strategy was when he first started. I'm not saying, Jiffy Burger Boy is going to win this or anything, or that he's doing something that's going to mess things up for the state's case. I'm just saying he absolutely, this was so quick that it had to have been planned. Jennifer Esslinger said, Lori's well on her way from being a finger twiddler. Yeah, she's going to be doing a lot of finger twiddling in prison. I'm sure her cellmates will use their fingers too, don't you know? Okay. Nate Eaton says Boyce is back on the bench and says an objection will be taken up outside the presence of the jury. What could this be about, y'all? Tina Reddington says, if you throw enough stuff at the wall, something's going to stick. Jenny says, I think we should try that translated being theory on both of them right now. Daughter of Scotland says, they will call her goddess Bebe. Getting the testimony stricken means the jury will not be able to consider it during deliberation. It's actually a brilliant tactic, said Badger. When evil entered, it may have chronological info on Charles's death, and they can't talk about him. That's a good point there. When evil entered, Zero is time for all my meds. I want to live through this, but I'll be quiet now because of the morphine. Okay, Zero. Hope they don't strike her testimony, says Just Looking. She did damage to Lori. Hope Grace says, I wonder if Pryor, Chad Daybell's attorney, is taking notes. The judge is not LDS. He was as a young man and left the church. His wife is also not LDS, says Beautiful Day. Holly Tomlinson says, isn't Melody Gibb her alibi? Is part of it. That's a good point, Holly. The state has said they're going to call her in their rebuttal case, Melanie Gibb. So I just don't see them striking the testimony here, y'all. I just don't. Thomas wants Melanie Gibb's testimony struck from the record because he says the prosecutor did not furnish statements from Gibb to the defense. Blake says she interprets the law differently than Thomas and says all statements have been turned over. The state and the defense are allowed to meet with witnesses and do witness prep. Blake says all the statements, including the 7-page outline by Gibb and police reports, have been turned over to the defense. And he's referring to this last Zoom call. Thomas argues that the state received statements from Gibb, and they did, y'all, because they were on a Zoom call that she testified to and indicated she met with prosecution, and the prosecution did not turn over oral statements. Excuse me a minute, y'all. You want out? There you go. Y'all, I've got cats. All right. Blake says she interprets the law differently than Thomas. She says if something is new, it should be turned over, but there was nothing new in their most recent meeting with Gibb. Well, folks, we only had the reference of Chad's preliminary hearing. We knew there were going to be new things talked about by any witness. There are some new things, but I think that's a different... The judge is reviewing the arguments. The judge has an issue with the timeline of the objection, saying, you're asking me to tell the jury to disregard everything they heard all day today? And Thomas says he has made this objection this week and felt it appropriate to make objection during cross-examination. My goodness, y'all. Thomas says he made this objection 2 days ago and the court struck me down. So he thought it would be appropriate to do it when it was his turn to speak. This attorney Thomas, y'all, he needs to go and get him a job at Jiffy Burger. He needs to be standing out on the corner in front of the restaurant there with the Jiffy Burger outfit on, holding up a great big plastic hamburger. That's what he needs to be doing. Oh. Boyce says after reviewing case law, the objection is unfounded and the motion to strike the testimony is denied. And just think of it like this, y'all. They're asking the jury to leave, and maybe the jury members, while they're out of there, can go to the bathroom or get them a drink of water or something. But the bottom line is this is a waste of damn time, Thomas. It's a waste of time. And think about it like this, y'all. He is saying, I want to strike this testimony. That's the last thing these jurors heard before they were asked to leave out of the room. This is so prejudicial to the state's case by him doing this crap. I mean, it's ridiculous. Maria P. says Thomas should be called Mark Means Jr. Dodging Bullets says they have nothing on the defense table, so they have to do something to make their presence known. Just Me says the judge will tell them. Sherilyn Softner, honey, I take this case very seriously, but these people, specifically Melanie Gibb and all the rest of these cult members, the Lori Hussey Daybell and all them, I'm not holding back on them. I'm not. The case is very serious and important, and the victims and the victims' family members deserve justice. But this is how I deal with it. I don't know how other people deal with it. Judge tells John Thomas going forward, unless there's some written statements that were not provided, he will rule the same exact way. In other words, he's telling John Thomas, don't waste my time. The jury is being brought back into the courtroom. Ridiculous. I guess old John Thomas wants Lori to think he's the man. He's going to object, and Lori's going to get hopping up and down in that chair. Oh, y'all know it. Y'all know it. Waiting for a refresh, y'all. As you can imagine, the jurors have taken in a lot of information thus far. They've heard this secret recording from Melanie Gibb to Chad and Lori. Melanie Gibb is the authority, don't you know, on these religious beliefs, although she says she didn't believe it. Give me a break. She knows all about everything, but she wasn't involved, don't you know. Come on. Truth, logic, common sense, that gut feeling, and just a little bit of psychoanalysis. The jury is seated again. So far, 2 phones have been confiscated for audio going off. People try to get away with that. They want to mess with this whole process. When they're told not to allow their phones to go off, the audio's going off on them. The bottom line is it's just ridiculous. It's just a disruption. Rules are rules. We don't like the rules. We want cameras in the courthouse. And make no mistake, y'all, First of all, we all know she's going to get convicted, but second of all, I am looking at you when I say that during sentencing, they're going to have cameras in the courtroom, because then it ain't going to be about anything else. She's already been convicted. And I want to see the look on that hussy's face when they send her off to Pocatello Prison. Thomas is asking for clarification on a few points. Melanie explains she met Lori at an LDS church building during an evening class. They were not in the same group. Lori showed up with her niece, Melanie. And Melanie is, because there's two Melanies, y'all. For those that don't know, there's Melanie Gibb, who's on the stand right now, and there's Melanie Pulowski, the ex-wife of Brandon Boudreaux. Lori showed up with her niece, Melanie. They were going to be the Bopsy twins, don't you know? And, don't you find it interesting that Melanie Gibb, Melanie P., and Lori all had blonde hair? I guess Chad wanted his harem, didn't he? Huh? And Zulema and her chips and salsa. I gotta get my chips and salsa from Alex. Alex was going to get him something a little different there. And I love chips and salsa, by the way, y'all. Phones must be silenced or turned off in the courtroom. So far this morning, 2 phones have gone off. This violates the court order, and the bailiff has seized both of the phones. And whoever these people are, they'll just have to wait till the end of the day to pick them up on the way out the door. On cross-examination, and it being also continues from Thomas. Thomas asked Gibb about meeting Chad a year or 2 before meeting Lori, and how she and Lori became fast friends in 2018. From October of 2018 to October of 2019, Gibb says she and Lori were very close. And you remember that in that time frame there, September was the month those children were murdered. And, she was still friends with her when Tammy was murdered. Thomas asked what it was like when Gibb and Vallow met. Gibb says they would meet at the temple or go get lunch. It's funny. Going and getting lunch, Cafe Rio. The fact that when Lori goes back there for her lunch these last couple of days, she's eating some damn stale bologna sandwich, but they're translated beans, don't you know? Thomas says, obviously, the kids weren't at the temple or lunch. And Gibb clarifies that she would go to Lori's house after lunch or the temple. Thomas asks about seeing JJ frustrated, and Gibb says she's seen different kids in life have autistic behavior. She noticed he cried often, and that's so sad, y'all. And by the way, just an FYI, Melanie Gibb had an autistic child, and she took off and left that child too. Just as Melanie Pulowski took off and left her kids with Brandon, but then wanted them back when she realized that she needed her kids, number 1, to get her ass out of trouble, number 2, so she could get their benefits. These people, they're all about no government. Governments are dark and all this and that, but they ain't got a problem sucking off the tit of the government. Y'all ever notice this? Thomas asks about a schedule JJ was on. Gibb says she wasn't around him often to know bedtime routines or schedules. Melanie says she and Lori would often meet for lunch or go to the temple. Thomas asks Melanie how familiar she is with autism and people who are autistic. She says she was quite familiar but wasn't aware if he had a strict routine. She knows JJ went to private school that had a section for autistic children. JJ attended Life Academy in Gilbert, Arizona, says Melanie Gibb, also known as Lawrence Institute for Education. Melanie is asked if she ever went with Lori to take JJ to school. She says it's possible, but she doesn't recall, y'all. Think about that, will you? Could you? How could anyone forget whether or not they accompanied their bestest buddy to take their autistic child to school? I mean, these people, I would remember something like that. Thomas says JJ had a routine where he would go to Burger King before school with his mom and order chicken fries. And I guess he's trying to set it up about, and I don't know why he would, because they're not able to say that Charles Vallow's death was a murder. I don't see how he'd be bringing that in, because Lori's not on trial for Charles Vallow's murder here. And that's the only time we've heard about her. When she left after Charles was murdered, he had a routine of going to get chicken fries. Melanie said Lori believed that Melanie had been on Earth 4 to 5 times. And at times, Melanie bought into this idea. At times, y'all. Melanie Gibbs sometimes believed it, don't you know, that she had been on this earth 4 to 5 times. She says she wasn't sure, but Lori was very convincing and tried to encourage her to believe it. I'll tell you what, this is called weak-minded people. That's what it is. They'll believe anything. Anything that makes them feel good, don't you know? Also, Melanie, what's wrong one? Excuse me, y'all. I apologize. I'm trying to read these as quickly as they come in. Thomas asked about Lori and Chad for the first time. He's clarifying the month and year. He asked about when Chad stayed the night at Lori's home in Arizona and Melanie stayed the night. And Thomas asked about how many others stayed, and Gibbs says maybe 6 people. And y'all recall, there was a woman who did an interview. It was attached also to this whole interview with Inside Edition with Julie Rowe, accusing Chad Daybell of sexual assault. But the whole narrative of the whole Inside Edition thing was Chad was a horn dog. And there was a woman who didn't want her name spoken who was actually there that weekend. And she said, looking back now, when Chad and Lori were standing in the kitchen, they were acting so, I don't know what was the word she thought, that was awkward about their sleeping arrangements. And now she realized, she said later on she realized that they had been in an affair. Thomas is talking about Chad and Lori that night. where, that weekend that Chad was at Lori's house where Charles Vallow was out of town. Thomas says, this wasn't a hookup, right? And Melanie Gibbs says, I can't agree with that. And Thomas asked if Gibb really thinks Chad and Lori had something going on while others were at the home. She can't agree with it because she knew. She knew that Chad and Lori were hooking up. We have not seen Jim Archibald do any cross-examination of a witness. He's spoken at the podium during opening statements. That's it. If I'm incorrect, let me know. And Justin is incorrect because he was the one that did the speaking motion on allowing Lori to leave during testimony of the graphic photos. It was Archibald who did that. So I know that's a lot for Justin Lum to take in, but Archie, those are the two times though. He hasn't done any cross-examination of any of the witnesses. Thomas asked for clarification on how many people stayed at Lori's house the weekend Chad stayed in Arizona for the conference. Melanie says it was a few. Thomas asked if it was a hookup for Chad and Lori, and Melanie believes it was. Thomas asked Melanie if she thought it was odd that Jesus Christ and Moroni had sealed Chad and Lori in the temple, and she says it was, but never asked Lori to show her the place in the temple where Lori married Chad. Could you imagine this? It was odd, says Melanie Gibb. But Melanie Gibb was right there, y'all. She was right on it. She was encouraging it. And in fact, that's one of the reasons she ended up with David Warwick. Melanie says Lori and Chad tried to convince her that she was part of the 144,000, but she never felt that was her calling. Thomas says casting sound like witchcraft, and Melanie says it didn't feel like that. Oh, this goes hand in hand with Archie's motion there where he talked of, to dismiss the death penalty. He says, we don't burn witches in America. How stupid was that? Because that makes it look like he thinks his client's a witch. Oh, she's much more than a witch. I guarantee you that. She's a hussy bitch. That's what she is. Thomas on Lori's alleged special mission on earth. You indicated that was biblically referenced, and Lori was the head of this 144,000. Were you brought into the group? And Melanie Gibbs says Lori indicated that we were a part of it all. Oh my goodness. Oh Lord. You notice that Melanie Gibb is not saying Chad told her. Now, of course, Melanie Gibb wants to say that Chad was telling this to Lori and Lori was telling them. The bottom line is Lori was not sucked into any of this. Lori wanted Chad Daybell, and if Chad Daybell would have told her anything, she'd have believed it, just because she wanted to be with him. Melanie says the castings were more like casting spirits out, similar to what Jesus did. Let me tell you something. There ain't not a damn thing that they did that has any recognition at all of anything that Jesus Christ did. Melanie says it felt very unusual and very innocent to her because it was just like a prayer. Yeah. Well, wasn't it Melanie Gibb that was there when they all got together and Lori and Alex was talking about crushing up pills in Charles Vallow's drink and how everybody was hearing Alex say, I wish he was dead? Oh, that's so Christ-like, don't you know? These people are pathetic. Thomas asks about the casting out of devils. You did this with Lori, correct? And Melanie Gibbs says, correct. And Thomas says, did you ever feel like this was the wrong thing to do? And Melanie Gibbs said, it felt unusual, but innocent to me. Thomas asked if innocent means praying for good and for hunger to end, things like that. And Gibbs says, not that she's aware of. Oh, good point there. They're too busy trying to murder people. They have to psych themselves up about it. Basically, they had to go through this exercise of these castings to say, oh, it didn't work. So now we got to take matters in our own hands because we're lowercase g's and we're doing this in the name of I'm Almighty God who could have done this and gotten rid of the demons and all that. And why couldn't they have prayed to God if they really believed there was demons in them? God could have done it. These people are pathetic no matter how you look at it. No matter how you look at it. Thomas says, tell me about this light and dark. Did you believe in any of that? And Melanie Gibbs said, I did, somewhat, but not completely. See, Melanie Gibbs got 1 foot in and 1 foot out in her testimony and any other time that she has spoken with law enforcement. She had 1 foot in when she lied for Chad and Lori on the whereabouts of JJ to turn around and put her other foot out after going over all this crap with David Warwick to get their asses out of trouble. She put her other foot in to tell the police that she lied to them and that JJ was never with her. And here she is again, and in all other interviews, including Chad's preliminary hearing, saying, yes, I did, but somewhat, not completely. Is this supposed to make her look better or what? The jury watches Thomas closely. Lori swivels back and forth slowly in her chair, looking at Melanie. 2 peas in a pod. Elena and Phoebe, don't y'all know? Thomas asked for clarification on the light and dark scale. Melanie says she believed it somewhat, but not completely. Y'all, I've got to plug in my phone. It's fixing to go down on me. Don't worry, y'all. We'll get back here in a second. I just don't want to be bumped off here. Just bear with me, folks. This is called high technology, an Apple iPhone. Okay. That way we can stay together through thick and thin, don't you know? All right. Melanie says the castings were done in homes, not in the temple. It was just people standing up in a circle together. And then Lori would express words. Her friends would say something similar to energy work. Thomas asked about Melanie's experience with energy work. Melanie Gibb tells him she had not done this. She has had this done to her. She says some practitioners can communicate with people on the other side of the veil. And you know how creepy that sounds? That's some crazy ass stuff, y'all. That's crazy. Let me tell you something. What they're hearing is demons. That's what that is. Evil spirits. Because there's not no good spirits that's going to go and be around them that's going to equal into the murder of children and Tammy and Charles. It is what it is. It's called the fruits. If it's evil, it's rotten ass fruit, and they're all going to have to live with it. live with that rotten fruit of what they did. Every one of them. Melanie says the castings were done in homes, not in the temple. I've read that one. Tom is trying to get Melanie to clarify exactly what casting is and how similar it is to prayer. So maybe he's trying to get Melanie Gibb to testify that this was really just about praying. It had nothing to do with premeditated murder. It's only, y'all, this is just my guess. All right, y'all. Thomas says now, let's talk about zombies. So here we go, y'all. We're going to talk about the zombies. I'll tell you who the zombies are. All these cult members and Lori Daybell at the defense table. She is a zombie. Chad Daybell is a zombie as well. Everything they wanted to believe about other people, that's exactly what happened to them. Pure and simple. My opinion, I'm sticking to it. When Lori talked about zombies, did you immediately think they were going to die? And Melanie Gibbs says it was a bizarre teaching, and Lori thought that too. Something we had never heard of. And just take this into perspective, y'all. Melanie Gibb has stated many, many, many times that all she ever loved to do was to look through Holy Scripture and the Book of Mormon, and she knew her verses, and she used them on the recorded phone call with Lori and Chad. She used them in the 7-page letter to Aval. She was very versed on all this. So there was nothing in any of that about quote-unquote zombies, and here she is. When Lori talked about zombies, did you immediately think they were going to die? Melanie says no, it was a bizarre teaching, and Lori thought it was bizarre too in the context to how it was explained to her by Chad. Chad told Lori, who then told Melanie, that Tylee became a zombie when she was 12 or 13 years old, but they only knew this when she was 16. I want to beat that woman to death. I know, y'all, to think about everything that Lori put Tylee Ryan through ever since she was just a little girl, coaching her to believe she'd been molested, putting her through all of that, taking Joe Ryan, who loved Tylee, away from him. They did a complete investigation. They went into his house, took the bed covers off, looking for DNA, looking for anything that would point to Tylee Ryan being molested. They did child interview with her. They wrote a report saying that Lori was coaching Tylee. Lori put Tylee Ryan through all of this. And here she is at 12 and 13. Lori's got to continue on treating Tylee like this all the way up till she's 16. It's awful. It's absolutely awful. The jurors are very attentively paying attention during this talk of zombies, dark and light, etc. Lori also is paying attention as she watches Melanie on the stand. I have not seen Melanie look at Lori, and why should she? Because if she meets her eyes with Lori, she's got to look into the eyes of the woman that she worshiped herself. The mother Elena, and Melanie Gibb is Phoebe. And Melanie Gibb having to look Lori in the eye, knowing that all of this time, Melanie Gibb was putting Lori and Chad up on a pedestal, egging them on to move even further into this. That's my view. Melanie says she never prayed for JJ and Tylee. That's her word. I bet she did. And finally, all boys calls for a lunch break. We will reconvene at 12:45 p.m. So there you go, y'all. It's lunchtime. Let me quickly get to Justin Lum and see what he has said. Anything different? Then we'll sign off for a little while. Then we'll hop back on here. Okay, Jay's got to cook her some lunch. I'm getting hungry. I could eat a baby's butt through a park bench. Thomas asked about Tylee going dark between February and June of 2019. Gibb answers correct. And in September of 2019, Thomas asked about JJ becoming an alleged dark spirit, and Melanie Gibb confirms this. Thomas asked if she prayed for JJ and Tylee, and Gibb says no. And think about that. Think about that. All this time when they were praying for Charles and Brandon and Tammy, and yet she's been told that the same stuff's happening to these children. Did Melanie Gibb pray for Tylee and JJ not to die? Couldn't she have said, Thomas, I prayed for them that they would get better? No, she didn't pray for them at all because she knew they were going to be murdered. So, anyway, we'll get back together. Again, this is lunch recess. For the next 45 minutes, look for me. We're going to spend the rest of the afternoon. There's no indication that this will not be a full day up till 3:30 Idaho time. So for those that can get back with me, thank y'all so much for being here and helping me through all this. I love you all. See you in about 45 minutes, and keep on